You're listening to the Acadiana's Morning News Podcast, brought to you by LABI and always on KPEL965.com.
Hi, I'm EJ Williams. Each year, millions of animals are abandoned, and more than 1 million are euthanized before they can be rescued. Organizations like American Humane are working to harness the healing power of the human-animal bond, as animals can be trained as life-saving service and therapy dogs to help veterans, the elderly, and children with special needs to overcome the obstacles of everyday life. To find out how you can help give animals and the people they help a new leash on life, please visit AmericanHumane.org.
I asked what kind of family she wanted. She said, a family like yours.
Learn more about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL, Breaux Bridge, Lafayette, broadcasting from the Matthew James Tax and Wealth Management Studios.
President Biden plans to sign it today. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
On this vote, the yeas are 79. The nays are 18.
That was the Senate approval last night of a $95 billion foreign aid package. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says,
to our friends in Ukraine, America will soon deliver more ammunition and air defenses and basic supplies you need.
Almost two-thirds of the foreign assistance will go to help Ukraine battle Russia's invasion. Some Republicans oppose that, saying we've given Ukraine enough. And Congressman Jeff Van Drew tells Fox,
we're spending more money, and we're still not controlling our own border and letting people in, some of whom are dangerous and would do harm to the United States of America.
The bill also includes a possible ban on TikTok unless the social media app cuts ties to its Chinese parent company, amid concerns about surveillance and China manipulating TikTok content. Now today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in China starting 3 days of talks. Some of that foreign aid will also go to Israel. Some college students won't like that. That's at Columbia University, where a midnight deadline for pro-Palestinian protesters to take down an encampment was extended. A Columbia statement says,
protesters have committed to dismantling and removing a significant number of tents. In light of this constructive dialogue, the university will continue conversations for the next 48 hours. The protesters responding saying they will not be intimidated by, quote, the school's disturbing threat of an escalation of violence.
Fox's Brooke Singman. There have also been protests from NYU to Yale to some campuses in California. A scare in the air in northern Japan on an ANA flight. The plane had smoke coming out of it as it landed today. Nobody was injured, but according to FlightAware, it's another issue with another Boeing-made jet. The Biden administration is unveiling new regulations today on airlines, requiring them to be more transparent on fees when booking flights so passengers see the full cost of the tickets, and they'll have to give prompt refunds for cancellations or delays. America's listening to Fox News.
Don't let everyday aches and pains keep you from living your best life.
I don't think I really understood what people meant when they talked about pain until I started feeling it myself.
Start feeling better every day with Relief Factor, a daily supplement designed to support your body's fight against aches and pains.
Not only do I move better without pain, I just feel better.
Created by doctors, Relief Factor uses a unique formula of natural ingredients that target 4 metabolic pathways to address pain. Relief Factor doesn't just mask aches and pains, it helps reduce or even eliminate them.
Today, I do the things I love, and it doesn't occur to me to think about pain.
You can feel the difference all day, every day.
Join the over 1 million people who have tried Relief Factor's 3-week Quick Start Kit. It's only $19.95. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800-4RELIEF. And feel the difference of Relief Factor.
The Supreme Court will consider a new abortion case today, a few years after the ruling that undid a woman's federal right to abortion, giving states the right to ban the procedure. The justices will consider a challenge to Idaho's law, the Biden administration trying to expand medical exemptions, the day after the president spoke out against abortion restrictions.
President Biden spoke in Tampa as a 6-week abortion ban is set to take effect in Florida next week. He blamed former President Trump for taking abortion rights away and anticipated conservatives' next anti-abortion step.
To prevent all women in America from getting safe and effective medication like methylprestone, approved by the FDA 20 years ago. They're trying to outlaw that now.
Even with the 6-week ban coming, President Biden believes Florida in November will follow the lead of Ohio, Kansas, and Kentucky, conservative states that have voted to enshrine abortion rights in their state constitutions. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
On Wall Street, stock futures are mixed after a second day of big gains. The Dow and the Nasdaq both surged up more than 200 points. A women's basketball star getting a big payday after Caitlin Clark went pro. She's ready to sign a big deal with Nike.
Worth up to $28 million over 8 years, according to the Wall Street Journal, citing unnamed people familiar with the situation. Last week, The Athletic reported that Clark was nearing an 8-figure deal with Nike and that the 2-time National Player of the Year is expected to get a signature shoe with the company. Clark took the women's college basketball world by storm over the last 2 years, taking Iowa to back-to-back national championship games. She was selected by the Indiana Fever with the first pick of the WNBA draft. Joe Morgan, Fox News.
In the NBA playoffs, Dallas got even with the LA Clippers, winning Game 2. Indiana also tied in the series with Milwaukee. Minnesota beat Phoenix again to go up 2-0. In the NHL playoffs, Nashville and Colorado and Florida and the New York Rangers were winners. I'm Dave Anthony, and this is Fox News.
Your 24/7 news source, on air, online, and with the KPEL News app. Now the headlines from the KPEL News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wirtz with a look at news on this Wednesday, April 24th. Festival International kicks off this evening in downtown Lafayette. If you can't find a parking space downtown, a shuttle will be running from the UL Health Science parking garage to the festival grounds. Streets in downtown Lafayette will be closed during event hours. Music starts tonight at Scene Fade Odo near the intersection of Jefferson and Lee. At the Capitol, legislation to remove nitrogen hypoxia as a means of execution passed in the Senate after 2 votes. The first vote was tied, and then it passed 22-16 and advances to the House. Monroe Representative Katrina Jackson Andrews asked for a suspension of the rules because she believes some members mistakenly voted against the bill the first time. She reminded Senate members the bill does not repeal the death penalty, only the use of gas for execution. Jackson Andrews filed the measure at the request of members of the Jewish community because of the method's connection to the Holocaust. Louisiana public school teachers would receive a cut in pay, and early childhood education would see a reduction in state funding under the budget proposal approved by House Appropriations. The spending bill would reduce a $2,000 stipend that teachers receive on top of their regular salary down to $1,300. House Appropriation Chairman Jack McFarland says they had to reduce proposed teacher stipends and cut $24 million from early childhood education to fully fund the K-12 public school funding formula that Bessie submitted to the legislature. The budget process is not over yet, and lawmakers could find a way to cover the stipend at that higher level. Legislation to provide protections for in vitro fertilization clinics in Louisiana advanced favorably from the House Civil Law Committee and will go before the full House next week. Bill author Baton Rouge Representative Paula Davis says after a Supreme Court ruling in Alabama caused IVF clinics to close, she wanted to keep that from happening here. The Alabama Supreme Court ruled that a frozen embryo is considered a child, and if the embryo is destroyed, it's wrongful death. To avoid criminal charges, IVF clinics there closed. The bill only affects IVF and does not impact the state's abortion ban. The trial for murder suspect Joshua Willis continues today in Lafayette. Willis is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the 2016 deaths of Ashley Metz and her boyfriend, Brooklyn Hill. The 2 were found in separate vehicles in Scott and Karen Crow. They had been shot and the cars set on fire. A second suspect and Willis's nephew, Joseph Sylvester, accepted a plea in the case in exchange for his testimony against his uncle. Willis faces life in prison or the death penalty if he's convicted. The Ragin' Cajuns host Houston Christian tonight at the Teague. First pitch is scheduled for 6 p.m., and you can listen to the game right here on 96.5 KPEL. That's a look at your news. I'm Tracy Wirtz.
This hour of Acadiana's Morning News has been brought to you by Jani King. The King of Clean has been a leader in the cleaning industry on the Gulf Coast for over 35 years. To find out more about their cleaning and disinfecting services, head to their website at janiking.com.
Going to start seeing a few clouds trickling in here as we go through the day today. Going to be a little bit warmer out there as well. Those temperatures up at about 83 degrees. Still fairly quiet, though, and still plenty of sunshine. This maybe not as much as we've had the last couple of days. Lows tonight going to start to be a little bit warmer. We are staying in the 60s here, 63 overnight tonight. Continuing to warm up and feeling a little bit muggier towards the end of the week. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5. KPEL. Right now, traffic.
We don't have any accidents on the roadways early this morning. That's good news. A lot cooler than it was yesterday morning at this time. 62 degrees. Good morning and welcome into Acadiana's Morning News. KBEL News Time 6:11. Tracy Wertz, Mark Pope. Thank you for joining us on National Scream Day.
Say what?
It's National Scream Day. Self-care is important, but it doesn't always mean good smelling. Candles, bubble baths, meditation. Sometimes you just need a good cathartic scream.
Scream. I was hearing scream.
No, scream.
A
like
scream. But what the heck is that?
Yeah, no, it's just
person,
somebody who
thing?
she's just in a coat of some sort.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, just National Scream Day. Yeah. And if you need to make yourself feel better and feel like a child, it's National Skipping Day today. I haven't tried to skip in a long time, but I'm down, as they say. It's National Administrative Professionals Day. They do not get enough credit ever, and so if you have administrative professionals in your office, say thank you. We'll need to remember to do that for Miss Janet. It's National Pigs in a Blanket Day and National Bucket List Day. You might not have a physical bucket list, Mark. You're very literal. So when I ask this question, I don't mean a literal, but do you have things that you want to do before you pass?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Have you written them down? I haven't, but I do have a bucket list.
No, the wife does that. There's
Really?
sticky notes all over the mirror in the house, and yeah.
Oh.
Life is one big sticky note.
Well, mine, it's lists. I just have lists everywhere.
Okay.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
It is April 24th today, besides being the first day of Festival International. On this date in 1184 BC, the famous Trojan horse was used by the Greeks to gain entry into Troy. And it's interesting because think about how long ago that was, and we still use the phrase Trojan horse to this day.
Yep.
On this date in 1913, the Woolworth Building in New York City was officially opened, making it the world's largest building at the time. Now, it's 792 feet tall and still remains in the top 100 tallest buildings in the U.S. And I stayed in a hotel the one time I went to New York, and I mean, like, I'd go back tomorrow if I could. That's on my bucket list, a return trip to New York, speaking of. The hotel we stayed in, of course, you stay high because they don't have any lateral space left in New York, so they go up. We had a small balcony, and right off our balcony, we saw the top of the Woolworth Building. It was fantastic. Wow. Yeah, it was just absolutely gorgeous. On this date in 1960, rioting erupted in Biloxi, Mississippi, after black protesters staging a wade-in at a whites-only beach were attacked by a crowd of hostile whites. On this date in 1980, the United States launched an unsuccessful attempt to free the American hostages in Iran, a mission that resulted in the deaths of 8 U.S. servicemen. And we may have this discussion later, but if you think back to when we were much younger, you and all of us, someone asked me in a class, in a group setting, what is the first major news story you remember as a child? And the Iran hostage crisis is the first one that I remember. I mean, I was alive when, Nixon went through all of his stuff and a few other things, but I was riveted to the television because at the time we didn't have devices, we didn't have the internet.
True.
And,
True.
I remember my mom and dad looking very worried.
Yeah.
So on this date in 1990, NASA's Discovery space shuttle carried the Hubble Space Telescope into orbit. In 2015, the first generation Apple Watch was released. Think about that. 9 years ago, and look how far we've come. I remember I was working alongside Stephen Albritton at the news desk, and he was frothing at the mouth, counting down the days until he could get his Apple Watch. And I thought, what the heck? And now I have one.
Yeah.
On this date in 2016, Andrew Lawrence became the... This is funny. Andrew Lawrence became the fastest runner to complete a marathon dressed as a fruit.
Okay.
Yeah, donned a banana costume. He was a 30-year-old dad, completed the London Marathon. It was a bright yellow banana skin outfit, and he finished the race, a whole marathon, 2 hours, 47 minutes, and 41 seconds.
Wow, banana's a good outfit because think about it. You say, wow, look at that banana, man. He is really peeling out there.
But where's my rim shot when I need it, right? All righty. Well, that's a look at what happened on Today in History. It's Scream Day, so if you're a little frustrated, might be a day to do that. Go skipping through the streets during festival, whatever. We've got a lot going on today, too. Coming up in just a few minutes, speaking of festival, we will visit with someone from festival to kind of give us a last-minute look at what you can expect and maybe some tips so you can better enjoy festival. In the 7 o'clock hour, we will be joined by Youngsville Mayor Ken Ritter. Visited with him yesterday. And then at 8 o'clock, Superintendent of Lafayette Parish Schools, Francis Touchet, will join us. He also has another guest, and we will talk about, I have the list of things that we will discuss coming up later, and so we'll remind you about all of that. But Francis always has some very useful information to impart. KPEL News Time, 6:17.
Fox on Tech.
Forbes broke the story obtaining court documents where law enforcement officials asked Google's YouTube to turn over IP addresses, names, addresses, telephone numbers, and user activity for all users that viewed a certain YouTube video that had over 30,000 views, all in their effort to figure out the identity of a Google user they thought could have viewed the video who was suspected of money laundering. But the amount of information that the law enforcement was asking for meant that potentially thousands of innocent Google users would have been caught up in law enforcement's hunt. Google says they take law enforcement requests seriously and balance helping them while protecting user privacy. Quote, "We have a rigorous process designed to protect the privacy and constitutional rights of our users. We examine each demand for legal validity consistent with developing case law, and we routinely push back against overbroad or otherwise inappropriate demands for user data, including objecting to some of those demands entirely." With Fox on Tech, Hillary Vaughn, Fox Business.
Party at Rock and Bowl all weekend, starting on Thursday with Gerard Delafosse. Friday, Wayne Tubes plus 4 horses. Saturday, The Rouge Crew. Sunday, Gino Delafosse and French Rockin' Boogie. Tickets now at rockandbowl.com. God bless you, God love you, and thank God for...
A pretty decent looking forecast out there today. Temperatures at about 83 degrees with winds from the south at 5 to 10 miles an hour. We'll see a little more cloud cover out there compared to the last couple of days, and a gradual increase in clouds as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend. Weekend forecast still doesn't look too bad, with partly to mostly cloudy skies for Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures going to be sitting in the low to mid 80s. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
All right, we have a commercial fire being reported Cameron and Olgay Street. Now, that just means that an alarm went off. But if you're in that area and see something, let us know or just be very careful. Well, how about you do both? Current temperature is 62 degrees. Okay, wow. That was I didn't expect that one, but it's, kind of getting us in the festival mood, right?
Yep.
All right. That's a remix. Took me by surprise for sure.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's different, and that's a lot of what we'll hear at Festival. Festival International, of course, kicking off this afternoon. I believe I know the music starts at 6:30. Let me verify that. At Scene Fado, which is right there, Jefferson and Lee. Mm-hmm. And nope, that's not the schedule. There we go. Schedule. There we go. And it's going to be definitely toe tapping. The night wraps up with some Zydeco by Lil Nathan and the Zydeco Big Timers, and kicks off with Jordan Thibodeau et les Rodailleurs. I'm saying that completely wrong. But anyway,
Close.
Yeah, Jordan Thibodeau. That's the way that I would say. That I would say it, and I look at that word RODAILLEUR as I think about let's go Roday, and maybe that's what it's about.
Rodaliers. I don't know, Jason, or why you want to use that big word.
If Barry Onsley's listening, he's just shaking his head at us, just shaking his head.
Yep.
There is an app for the festival if you want to keep the map and the schedule right there in your hands. A few things that kind of housekeeping things, and we may be joined by someone from festival. They were scheduled to come in, but heck, they may be still running around and haven't gone to sleep since last night. The parking situation. If you can park downtown and are able to find a spot, you can do that. I would caution you to be careful that you don't get blocked in, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might, I got a parking spot close, and then you can't get out when it's time to leave. I still call it the Old Lord's Building, which is now the UL Health Sciences Complex right there.
Correct.
What is it, St. Landry and St. Mary?
Right, exactly.
You can park in that parking garage. It will cost you $15. There is a shuttle that will run from there to downtown Lafayette. So
they'll have people saying, come here, no, come this way, that type of thing.
Right.
So with that charge and the shuttle buses running. So, yeah.
And they changed to a cashless system a few years ago. I remember when they did that. They will be issuing RFID wristbands, and basically it's a digital wallet. You link it to a debit or a credit card and use that to pay wherever you go. Now, it's worth noting that vendors in the arts and crafts areas, they may be accepting cards and cash as well, because that's separate from the festival. Each of them is their own business, if you will. Now, with the RFID wristbands, I was reading last night. I was reading up on things. Because your card is only charged for what you buy at the time, there shouldn't be a balance. But if you don't have a debit card or a credit card, you can pay some money, say, I want to put $100 on my wristband. And you can do that. There is a form you fill out so that at the end of festival, if there's a balance left on your wristband, they will refund that to you. Of course, festival merchandise is free. And when you purchase that, it helps to keep the festival free. You can't bring your doggies. They love dogs, but it's probably not a good situation, not just for the festival goers, but for dogs too. That's a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And they could get kind of freaked out. Of course, service animals obviously will be allowed. So keep your doggies at home. Also, I didn't realize this. I was reading, again, another article. You can bring lawn chairs, of course, blankets, wagons, and you can bring handheld umbrellas. So if you want to keep the sun off yourself, you can do that. But they ask you to be mindful of limited space and the large crowds. Don't, set up camp, so to speak,
right.
And because people are it's going to be packed. Be respectful. And the fact that there are a lot of people that want to enjoy festival just as much as you do. Ice chests are not allowed. So there's that. You can get a festival pass. Festival passes, excuse me. They are on sale. They did sell out in 2023, so be sure to grab yours. And what does a festival pass mean? Well, festival's free, but pass purchases are a great way to support our nonprofit and to help keep festival free. The passes get you big perks like up-close views of music, get you private restrooms, which a lot of people are willing to pay for, absolutely. There's just so much going on at festivals. So many things to see, so many things to do. I saw some friends of mine posting on festival, hey, what are your most sees? Which day do you, or must sees, which day do you absolutely not want to miss? Because there's so much. So go by, check out the schedule, decide what it is you want to take a look at. It's just going to be a whole lot of fun, a big time. And make sure you wear sunscreen, too. That's a tip, huh, Mark?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Be prepared.
Absolutely. We've got a lot to do this morning. We are going to talk about the Lafayette Parish School System's budget when Francis Touchet comes in the 8 o'clock hour. And in the 7 o'clock hour, we will be joined during this week's Mayor's Minutes by Youngsville Mayor Ken Ritter. KPEL News Time is 6:28.
Fox on Tech.
Forbes broke the story obtaining court documents where law enforcement officials asked Google's YouTube to turn over IP addresses, names, addresses, telephone numbers, and user activity for all users that viewed a certain YouTube video that had over 30,000 views, all in their effort to figure out the identity of a Google user they thought could have viewed the video who was suspected of money laundering. But the amount of information that the law enforcement was asking for meant that potentially thousands of innocent Google users would have been caught up in law enforcement's hunt. Google says they take law enforcement requests seriously and balance helping them while protecting user privacy. Quote, "We have a rigorous process designed to protect the privacy and constitutional rights of our users. We examine each demand for legal validity consistent with developing case law, and we routinely push back against overbroad or otherwise inappropriate demands for user data, including objecting to some of those demands entirely." With Fox on Tech, Hillary Vaughn, Fox Business.
Rouse's Markets is serious about saving every week, but this week, check out the deals you can get. Twin packs of pork tenderloins or St. Louis-style pork ribs. Is your mouth watering? These are just $1.97 a pound. Yes, $1.97 a pound for pork tenderloins or St. Louis-style ribs. You're going to save $3.02 a pound. How about 6-ounce containers of fresh blueberries, blackberries, or raspberries? You can get them 3 for $5. It's tough these days to buy one of those for $5, but you can get 3 of them for $5. That's a savings of $9.99 when you buy 3. A 16-ounce pack of Rouse's Authentic Italian Pasta. These are just 77 cents. That's a savings of 72 cents. You're going to save a lot of money. Big weekly specials this week at Rouse's. How about large Kellogg's cereal? You ready? $2.97 a box. I'm a regular cereal buyer, and that is an amazing price. That's a savings of $2.02 a box. You can find more weekly specials in store, Rouses.com. Go check it out. Save big money. Go to Rouse's Market today. 4 locations in Lafayette and 1 in New Iberia.
KPEL covers Acadiana with Lowry's Printing and Copying.
38th Annual Le Festival International de Louisiane happens Wednesday, April 24th through Sunday, April 28th throughout downtown Lafayette. This is the world's largest cultural and music festival, and it's free. You can volunteer to be a festival helper in many ways. Just show up and tell them you'd like to volunteer. Get the complete music lineup and everything available at the festival at their website, festivalinternational.org. Saturday, April 27th in New Iberia, Festival of Live Oaks happens 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at New Iberia City Park. A barbecue cook-off, train rides, petting zoo, fun jumps, and other activities for the kids. Too much to mention here. To get more details, give them a call at 337-369-2337. See you in New Iberia, Saturday, April 27th, Festival of Live Oaks.
This is House Call for Health. New rules for nursing home staffing. Vice President Kamala Harris unveiling the new standards while visiting Wisconsin earlier this week. They require nursing homes that receive Medicare and Medicaid funding to be adequately staffed, meaning every facility with 100 residents needs at least 2 to 3 registered nurses to be compliant, as well as 10 or more nurse aides and 2 nursing staffers. Harris says the new rules will help staff dealing with harassment and burnout.
This will mean more staff, which means fewer ER visits, potentially more independence for families. It's going to mean peace of mind in terms of your loved one being taken care of. And for care workers, it's going to be more time with their patients, less burnout, and lower turnover.
The new rules are set to be implemented in phases, aiming to allow time for facilities to properly prepare for the new requirements in an industry that has struggled with staffing shortages. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
This hour brought to you by Matthew James Tax and Wealth Management. Online at MatthewJames.com.
Your 24/7 news source, on air, online, and with the KPEL News app. Now the headlines from the KPEL News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wirtz with a look at news on this Wednesday, April 24th. Festival International kicks off this evening in downtown Lafayette. If you can't find a parking space downtown, a shuttle will be running from the UL Health Science parking garage to the festival grounds. Streets in downtown Lafayette will be closed during event hours. Music starts tonight at Scene Fade Odo near the intersection of Jefferson and Lee. At the Capitol, legislation to remove nitrogen hypoxia as a means of execution passed in the Senate after 2 votes. The first vote was tied, and then it passed 22-16 and advances to the House. Monroe Representative Katrina Jackson Andrews asked for a suspension of the rules because she believes some members mistakenly voted against the bill the first time. She reminded Senate members the bill does not repeal the death penalty, only the use of gas for execution. Jackson Andrews filed the measure at the request of members of the Jewish community because of the method's connection to the Holocaust. Louisiana public school teachers would receive a cut in pay, and early childhood education would see a reduction in state funding under the budget proposal approved by House Appropriations. The spending bill would reduce a $2,000 stipend that teachers receive on top of their regular salary down to $1,300. House Appropriation Chairman Jack McFarland says they had to reduce proposed teacher stipends and cut $24 million from early childhood education to fully fund the K-12 public school funding formula that Bessie submitted to the legislature. The budget process is not over yet, and lawmakers could find a way to cover the stipend at that higher level. Legislation to provide protections for in vitro fertilization clinics in Louisiana advanced favorably from the House Civil Law Committee and will go before the full House next week. Bill author Baton Rouge Representative Paula Davis says after a Supreme Court ruling in Alabama caused IVF clinics to close, she wanted to keep that from happening here. The Alabama Supreme Court ruled that a frozen embryo is considered a child, and if the embryo is destroyed, it's wrongful death. To avoid criminal charges, IVF clinics there closed. The bill only affects IVF and does not impact the state's abortion ban. The trial for murder suspect Joshua Willis continues today in Lafayette. Willis is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the 2016 deaths of Ashley Metz and her boyfriend, Brooklyn Hill. The 2 were found in separate vehicles in Scott and Karen Crow. They had been shot and the cars set on fire. A second suspect and Willis's nephew, Joseph Sylvester, accepted a plea in the case in exchange for his testimony against his uncle. Willis faces life in prison or the death penalty if he's convicted. The Federal Trade Commission Tuesday voted to ban non-compete agreements that prevent employees from leaving their jobs for other companies or starting their own businesses. Some business groups are expected to take legal action over fear the ruling may leave their proprietary and intellectual property vulnerable. The rule will go into effect 120 days after it's published in the Federal Register, and even existing non-compete agreements will be thrown out, with a few exceptions for senior executives. LCG and Keep Lafayette Beautiful are hosting their annual paper shredding day on Saturday from 9 to noon at the Robichaux Center. Residents of Lafayette and the unincorporated areas can have confidential documents shredded to protect their personal information and reduce the risk of identity theft. Each household is limited to 3 kitchen-sized garbage bags. The Department of Wildlife and Fisheries is now offering the option to buy Louisiana waterfowl conservation stamps online. Customers can still purchase the 2024-25 duck stamp at licensed vendors and at the LDWF Baton Rouge headquarters. Those stamps will be available starting June 1st. The Raging Cajuns host Houston Christian tonight at the Teague. First pitch is scheduled for 6 p.m., and you can listen to the game right here on 96.5 KPEL. That's a look at your news. I'm Tracy Ward.
5. From the moments that shape our lives to those that shape our days, broadcasters are there, delivering the most trusted news that keeps you informed when it matters. We are your neighbors, a trusted voice, a lifeline. We are broadcasters. Text TV to 52886 and let Congress know you depend on your local TV and radio stations. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Hi, I'm Dale Brown, best-selling techno-thriller author. I'm also a mission pilot and squadron commander in the Civil Air Patrol. The members of the Civil Air Patrol are volunteer professionals who serve their communities and their nation every day with emergency services, aerospace education, and cadet programs. We train hard, we fly hard, and we get the job done for America. Join the Civil Air Patrol. Visit www.gocivilairpatrol.com and let's go flying.
Going to start seeing a few clouds trickling in here as we go through the day today. Going to be a little bit warmer out there as well. Those temperatures up at about 83 degrees. Still fairly quiet, though, and still plenty of sunshine. It's maybe not as much as we've had the last couple of days. Lows tonight going to start to be a little bit warmer. We are staying in the 60s here, 63 overnight tonight. Continuing to warm up and feeling a little bit muggier towards the end of the week. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
All right, taking a look at our traffic boards this morning. Still showing that residential fire, Cameron Street and Oye Street, so be careful in that area. You might see a lot of emergency vehicles there. Temperature this morning, 62 degrees. KPEL News time is 6:41. Good morning. Tracy Wirtz, Mark Pope joining you. Thank you for joining us. Lots to do this morning. I love Wednesdays, Mark, because of our Mayor's Minutes. It's always interesting to find out what's going on in Lafayette Parish municipalities. Those folks are busy. And they don't let the grass grow. They just, and each week, I try to kind of reach out to them and say, hey, what are we going to be talking about? And of course, they want to tout the wonderful things happening in their particular communities, but there are some tough subjects, some tough things that they need to deal with. And I think as constituents, it's important for us to understand the challenges that they've got.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to say, oh, go fix the potholes or go do thus and such.
Right.
Well, you know, got to pay for it.
Yes.
I was also looking at the legislature. There's several things we can talk later, especially with Lafayette Parish Superintendent Francis Touchet about the House Appropriations Bill and the cut for teacher stipends. As I mentioned yesterday, I'm keeping an eye on just what's going through the legislature. It's not always easy to follow it because it goes to one committee in one of the chambers, and then it might have to go to another committee, and then it goes to the floor, and then they have to read it, and they have to read it, and they have to read it again. All of these steps before it even moves across the hall to the other chamber. But it's been interesting to see the number of bills that have been filed as they relate to marijuana, not just medical marijuana, but others. There's a bill right now in one of the committees that deals with hemp, with its industrial uses, but also for consumption. And that now, again, that's hemp. Kind of, I don't understand always the difference. Do you understand the difference?
Well, I just think it has to do with the strength of the marijuana in general. Hemp is very sturdy, you know, the fibrous.
Right, yes.
And that's what they use for things like rope and other manufacturing processes. But when you come to the actual marijuana, it's not hemp. It's more, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a different chemical makeup. And hemp itself can be consumed in various forms, whether it's smoked or pills or gummies or whatever. But I'm looking here at the screen. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 bills.
Wow.
11 of them in the House and 3 of them in the Senate that relate in some way, shape, or form to marijuana. And, you know, we have been moving closer and closer to legalizing it, as other states have. And the argument for that is that people are going to do it anyway. Let's make it legal. Let's make some tax dollars off of it. I don't necessarily feel one way or the other very strongly. I can tell you people are using it regardless. They're smoking it. And you know, you have the medical marijuana, the gummies, in all of those forms. I mean, I'm driving down the road and I'm sitting at a stoplight and, you know, I'm getting a contact high from the car next to me.
Yeah.
But you know, and it's true. It's out there, and that there is obviously these transactions going on, these businesses, quote unquote, in air quotes, going on. So maybe it's something that we need to look into.
Well, I'll put it this way. If you want to use it, this is my take. If you want to use it in the privacy of your home, okay, stay home. You are impaired.
Right.
You should not get behind the wheel of an automobile or ride a motorcycle. I think even ride a bicycle unless you're going to harmlessly pedal around the neighborhood. But if you're out in an automobile, don't be smoking pot.
KPEL News Time is 6:45.
Securing America.
State Department officials say the 13 people allegedly involved in the spyware sales, quote, facilitated or derived financial benefit from the technology. In a statement, the agency says the spyware was used to target journalists, academics, human rights advocates, dissidents, and others. They did not identify those named in the restrictions, but the group also includes the family members of those involved in such businesses. The visa restrictions come more than 2 months after the federal government enacted a new policy that enforces visa constraints on those engaging in practices that could threaten freedom of expression and privacy. Another aim of the restrictions is to counter the spyware that's been used by authoritarian governments for spying. The misuse of commercial spyware has been a growing global concern, with reports highlighting how it's been used to infringe on personal freedoms and carry out espionage. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Want a relaxing way to spend some time? Louisiana's state parks are right in your own backyard. Spend the day hiking, fishing, biking, and picnicking, or stay overnight at one of our affordable cabins, campsites, or group camps. And tour a state historic site for an educational experience the whole family can enjoy. Call 1-877-226-7652 for more information, or visit www.lastateparks.com. Sponsored by the Louisiana Office of State Parks.
Media Minute with Howard Kurtz.
The media yesterday praised the credibility of David Pecker, the former National Enquirer publisher who calmly tied Donald Trump and his then fixer Michael Cohen to these catch-and-kill schemes. Pecker agreed to run positive stories about Trump, and for example, he said Michael Cohen would call up and say, "We'd like you to run a negative article on Ted Cruz." That would appear. Ted Cruz sex scandal, 5 secret mistresses. It was all made up, fake news. At the same time, the Enquirer paid $30,000 to a former Trump doorman who claimed Trump had a love child, and investigated, found out it was complete and total bull. When it came to Karen McDougal, the former Playboy model who alleged an affair with Donald Trump, Trump was concerned enough that he called Pecker himself. Earlier, the judge excoriated Trump's lawyer, said you have no credibility in an argument over the gag order. With your Media Minute, Howie Kurtz, Fox News.
Leveraging the power of Fox News Radio to cover the big issues that matter to you. News Talk 96.5. KPEL. Depend on it.
A pretty decent looking forecast out there today. Temperatures at about 83 degrees with winds from the south at 5 to 10 miles an hour. We'll see a little more cloud cover out there compared to the last couple of days, and a gradual increase in clouds as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend. Weekend forecast still doesn't look too bad, with partly to mostly cloudy skies for Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures going to be sitting in the low to mid-80s. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
All right, we have another fire alarm. Ambassador Caffrey at Dublin Parkway. Again, not sure if these are actual fires, but you may see emergency vehicles that slow you down. Same situation, Cameron Street at Olye Street. So please be careful. 62 degrees on this Wednesday morning, KPEL News Time, 6:50.
And welcome back to Acadiana's Morning News with Mark Pope and Tracy Wirtz. Right now, we're going to take a few minutes and talk about Festival International. We know that is coming up Wednesday, April 24th through Sunday, April 28th. Loads of events downtown. Look, folks, it's not just a music festival. It's a cultural festival. So, and plenty of opportunities for you, not just to attend, but to support the festival. We're going to talk to an old friend of KPEL, and that is Gerald Bro. He is on the board of Festival International. Gerald served for 30-plus years as director of Lafayette Visitors and Convention Commission, also known short version as Lafayette Travel. And so, Gerald, the story behind Festival International is interesting because in '86 it wasn't a group of Lafayette leaders saying, hey, let's start this international festival and see how long we can make it go. Tell us the real reason why and how Festival International was formed back decades ago.
Well, really, it was an organic festival made through the efforts of several people in the community. And the main reason was that Lafayette was in such a downturn. The oil industry was faded, according to all the reports. People were losing their jobs. The community was down and needed a pick-me-up. And so we thought, let's throw a party. Let's lift the spirits. And the best way to do it is in the Cajun country is through music and food. And that's how we decided, let's do it. In 1985, several of us got together in a room and thought, well, we could do it because no one told us we couldn't.
That's right. So you, Gerald Breaux, head of LCVC at the time, you had Herman Meir, an ambassador for the French culture, Kathy downtown.
Kathy Weber was down, and Philippe Gustin. There were probably 15, 20 people. Mike Doucet was involved at the time.
Yep.
A number of great folks, all in our 30s, and just thought, let's give it a shot.
And it worked, and it continued to work. And it did what you intended for it to do. It lifted the spirits of the people of Lafayette because, like you said, the oil boom, the oil industry wasn't doing too well. We were kind of in a little bit of a doldrums.
Well, none of us in our wildest dreams would believe that Festival International is now pretty much the largest international festival in the world, not just in the country, in the world. There's not many organizations that have tried to do this, and very few can even pretend to duplicate what we're doing here in Lafayette. Mm-hmm. And we just take it for granted.
That's right, we do. And it's free. People say it's free. Well, it's free to attend, but it's not free to bring in these artists. They are given a fee for their performances, for their transportation. They're flying in from thousands of miles away. And the money has to come from somewhere. Lafayette Consolidated Government gives money and then reaps benefits of tax revenue to the nth degree. So that's there. But there's ways that attendees can contribute.
Well, there are so many ways, Mark. That sponsorships are a key ingredient, stage sponsorships. But as little as $4 or $5 on a monthly basis by individuals also go into the pot to make it a success. Right. And everybody who can easily give away a soft drink a day or whatever can be a part of the festival. It is our event. It is for us to enjoy, but it's also for us to host in a perfect
That's right.
world.
And volunteers are needed. You can just we were speaking earlier with Carly Corville, marketing director. You can volunteer the day of the festival. You don't have to be signed up. They rely on 1,500 volunteers. You can buy the merchandise that supports the festival. You can buy beverages. When you buy a beverage, that supports the festival. As you said, you as an individual can contribute. Businesses can contribute. If we want to keep the festival free, we do have to support it. So just a whole lot going on with Festival International. As you said, we take it for granted. We should not take it for granted. Parking will be at the UL Health and Sciences building. That's the location of the Old Lord's Hospital. $15 to park. You have to have a credit card. Then you load up your wristband at kiosk throughout downtown Lafayette, or they can help you if you need, plenty of people there will be able to help you if you want to buy the food and the beverages and the merchandise in downtown Lafayette.
It's so easy. Life is easy now because we have the technology to make it easy for everybody to be a part of it.
Yes. So great information, Gerald. I like the story about how the festival started, and the same way it started is the way it continues. Lafayette is a happy place to be, and man, oh man, do we know how to throw a party. Gerald, thanks so much. Great information. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes, indeed. We'll take a time out, be back with more Acadiana's Morning News. Stay with us.
The Fox Business Report is brought to you by Gulf Coast Bank, your local community bank. Whether your financial needs are for an individual, a business, or for the whole family, Gulf Coast Bank has the knowledge and products to serve you best. With 9 convenient locations throughout Acadiana, You're never far from a friendly Gulf Coast Bank associate.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Tesla is stepping up plans for a cheaper electric car, the Model 2. Production is planned to start late next year at its current factories. Tesla's recent quarter saw business slump. It plans to reveal its robo-taxi, a driverless cab, on August 8th. CEO Elon Musk nicknamed it the Cybercab. Software giant Oracle is moving its headquarters to Nashville. It was founded in Santa Clara, California, and currently is based in Austin, Texas. Oracle CEO Larry Ellison says he wants the company to work with Nashville-based healthcare businesses. Shares of Gucci's parent company Kering are falling after it predicted a 45% drop in profits in the first half of this year. It's blaming sluggish market conditions. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Coselda, invested in you.
Hi, I'm Ron Kraszewski, Chairman and CEO of Stifel. Financial advisors, let's face it, if you're not growing your practice, you're losing market share. Stifel is a growing, entrepreneurial, advisor-centric firm built for successful advisors like you. There's a reason why 148 financial advisors joined Stifel last year. Come join us and find out why Stifel is the firm where success meets success. Visit www.choosestifel.com.
Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Depend on it.
Want a relaxing way to spend some time? Louisiana state parks are right in your own backyard. Spend a day hiking, fishing, biking, and picnicking, or stay overnight at one of our affordable cabins, campsites, or group camps. And tour a state historic site for an educational experience the whole family can enjoy. Call 1-877-226-7652 for more information, or visit www.lastateparks.com. Sponsored by the Louisiana Office of State Parks.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL, Breaux Bridge, Lafayette, broadcasting from the Matthew James Tax and Wealth Management Studios, online at matthewjames.com.
They have more time to take down an encampment. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News at Columbia University, where protesters face a midnight deadline that's been extended in New York City.
Pro-Palestinian student demonstrators claim the university threatened to call in the National Guard to clear out the lawn, but now we're gearing up to see these protesters camped out for at least 2 more days. The university tells us the students have agreed to a series of concessions, including removing a significant number of tents and people not affiliated with Columbia University from the encampment.
Fox's CB Cotton at Columbia. There are also protests planned at college campuses today from California to Texas to Maryland, and they won't like what the Senate did last night.
To our friends in Israel, America will soon deliver aid to help you fight the scourge of Hamas and stand up to Iran.
Democratic Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, after a 79-18 vote, advancing a $95 billion foreign aid package. Almost 2/3 of it would be weapons, ammo, and other aid for Ukraine's war against Russia, which some Republicans adamantly oppose. Also in that bill, a mandate for TikTok, the social media app that could be outlawed in the U.S.
And now the company that owns TikTok, ByteDance, which the FBI director said just yesterday is beholden to the Chinese government, has to sell it within 9 months with a possible 3-month extension if a sale is in progress. Otherwise, in the U.S., it is banned outright.
Fox's Peter Ducey at the White House. There are new regulations to help airline passengers. The Biden administration announced this morning.
One of the rules will require airlines to give automatic cash refunds to travelers whose flights are canceled or significantly changed, instead of forcing passengers to request refunds and receive a travel credit or voucher.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. Another rule requires airlines to be transparent about fees, showing the full price of a ticket. Today, the Justice Department will meet the families of victims of 2 deadly Boeing 737 MAX jet crashes in 2018 and 19. Boeing initially got immunity from federal criminal prosecution. America's listening to Fox News.
Don't let everyday aches and pains keep you from living your best life.
I don't think I really understood what people meant when they talked about pain until I started feeling it myself.
Start feeling better every day with Relief Factor, a daily supplement designed to support your body's fight against aches and pains.
Not only do I move better without pain, I just feel better.
Created by doctors, Relief Factor uses a unique formula of natural ingredients that target 4 metabolic pathways to address pain. Relief Factor doesn't just mask aches and pains, it helps reduce or even eliminate them.
Today, I do the things I love, and it doesn't occur to me to think about pain.
You can feel the difference all day, every day.
Join the over 1 million people who have tried Relief Factor's 3-week Quick Start Kit. It's only $19.95. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800-4RELIEF. And feel the difference of relief.
Your 24/7 news source, on air, online, and with the KPEL News app. Now the headlines from the KPEL News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wertz with a look at news on this Wednesday, April 24th. Festival International kicks off this evening in downtown Lafayette. If you can't find a parking space downtown, a shuttle will be running from the UL Health Science parking garage to the festival grounds. Streets in downtown Lafayette will be closed during event hours. Music starts tonight at Scene Fado near the intersection of Jefferson and Lee. At the Capitol, legislation to remove nitrogen hypoxia as a means of execution passed in the Senate after 2 votes. The first vote was tied, and then it passed 22-16 and advances to the House. Monroe Representative Katrina Jackson Andrews asked for a suspension of the rules because she believes some members mistakenly voted against the bill the first time. She reminded Senate members the bill does not repeal the death penalty, only the use of gas for execution. Jackson Andrews filed the measure at the request of members of the Jewish community because of the method's connection to the Holocaust. Louisiana public school teachers would receive a cut in pay, and early childhood education would see a reduction in state funding under the budget proposal approved by House Appropriations. The spending bill would reduce a $2,000 stipend that teachers receive on top of their regular salary down to $1,300. House Appropriation Chairman Jack McFarland says they had to reduce proposed teacher stipends and cut $24 million from early childhood education to fully fund the K-12 public school funding formula that Bessie submitted to the legislature. The budget process is not over yet, and lawmakers could find a way to cover the stipend at that higher level. Legislation to provide protections for in vitro fertilization clinics in Louisiana advanced favorably from the House Civil Law Committee and will go before the full House next week. Bill author Baton Rouge Representative Paula Davis says after a Supreme Court ruling in Alabama caused IVF clinics to close, she wanted to keep that from happening here. The Alabama Supreme Court ruled that a frozen embryo is considered a child, and if the embryo is destroyed, it's wrongful death. To avoid criminal charges, IVF clinics there closed. The bill only affects IVF and does not impact the state's abortion ban. The trial for murder suspect Joshua Willis continues today in Lafayette. Willis is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the 2016 deaths of Ashley Metz and her boyfriend, Brooklyn Hill. The 2 were found in separate vehicles in Scott and Karen Crow. They had been shot and the cars set on fire. A second suspect and Willis's nephew, Joseph Sylvester, accepted a plea in the case in exchange for his testimony against his uncle. Willis faces life in prison or the death penalty if he's convicted. The Ragin' Cajuns host Houston Christian tonight at the Teague. First pitch is scheduled for 6 p.m., and you can listen to the game right here on 96.5 KPEL. That's a look at your news. I'm Tracy Wertz. Your KPEL News Update brought to you by Home Furniture Plus Bedding, with over 40,000 furniture and mattress choices in stock and ready for delivery. Home Furniture Plus Bedding. Welcome home.
Going to start seeing a few clouds trickling in here as we go through the day today. Going to be a little bit warmer out there as well. Those temperatures up at about 83 degrees. Still fairly quiet, though, and still plenty of sunshine. It's maybe not as much as we've had the last couple of days. Lows tonight going to start to be a little bit warmer. We are staying in the 60s here, 63 overnight tonight. Continuing to warm up and feeling a little bit muggier towards the end of the week. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
All right, you may see emergency vehicles. Ambassador Caffrey at Dublin Parkway and Cameron Street at Oye Street. We still have those fire alarms on our screen. If not, then smooth sailing. KPEL News Time is 7:08. Current temperature 62 degrees.
You see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good morning and welcome back into Acadiana's Morning News. It is 7:10 on this Wednesday, April the 24th. Tracy Wertz, Mark Pope joining you, and Wednesdays mean Mayor's Minutes, one of my absolute favorite segments that we do when we visit with the mayors from municipalities around Lafayette Parish. And this week we head to Youngsville. Well, he headed over here. It's Youngsville Mayor Ken Ritter. Good morning.
Good morning, Tracy. Good to be here.
Beautiful morning to drive into.
It is, absolutely.
Absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so we have a lot to cover this morning and some exciting things. Let's start off with the Youngsville Sports Complex, because you guys, even with Festival in Lafayette, are going to be really busy.
Yeah, this is going to be a great weekend in Acadiana and Lafayette and Youngsville as well. Youngsville is hosting this weekend our 5th collegiate tournament year to date. It's really exciting for us. If you're a resident of Youngsville, you should be really excited just to know the power of sports tourism, sports marketing, and what that impact is for us. So this weekend we're hosting beach volleyball. And very excited about that. We have 9 NCAA Division I women's beach volleyball teams from 6 different states. They're kicking off Thursday through Saturday. Very excited about that. These teams, we have some high-ranking teams. If you haven't seen collegiate beach volleyball.
Okay, does it include the sand?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely, it does. It's just a great time to be. There's no charge to attend. We have our beach cabana open. You're welcome to bring a chair. If festival maybe isn't your scene or a festival is your scene, you still have an opportunity to come to Youngsville, watch some great collegiate play in a very fast-growing sport. And if you can't make it out, the games are also going to be televised or streamed rather on ESPN+.
Nice, and so we'll be able to see Youngsville on TV.
Yeah, it's a huge win. It's a huge win for Acadiana, for the efforts that we all put into sports tourism to really drive our local economy. And we're looking forward to hosting these teams again from 6 different states.
Now, it's Friday and Saturday. Let's talk real quickly about the Youngsville Sports Complex, because that is definitely a draw. Take us back a little bit to where it all began with that and the process, because I don't know, was it a situation like Field of Dreams? If they build it, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, it really was. And you know, I give credit to my predecessor at the time, Mayor Viatar. I was a newly elected city council member. We all campaigned on the platform of let's create an environment where kids have things to do at home, but then also as an opportunity to layer in a recreational element for our kids, but also economic development to drive people into our community. It was a proposition that was offered to our voters in 2011. It passed 56%. And ever since then, we've been full steam ahead, making sure that money's invested back in parks and recreation and opportunities to welcome visitors from across the world. While I said this is our 5th collegiate tournament, we're also getting very busy into our rec season, 1,600 kids doing baseball, softball, t-ball. And, that really will come to a head in July, where we'll have the Pony Mustang World Series.
Oh, nice.
Which is 9 and 10-year-olds from as far away as Japan. So
no kidding.
A lot of opportunity for everyone close to home.
And I'm sure that plan had to be thought out past the sports complex because, and I know a couple of other cities are dealing with this, lodging these folks.
Yeah.
So did you guys have to think that far out? Did you have to participate in making sure that when they come in, they have a place to stay?
Yeah. So, you may know Youngsville we do not have a hotel in our community. However, Lafayette Parish geographically is very small. We send a lot of business to the Lafayette Parish hotels, and that's okay because that money is still invested back into our community. But each tournament's a little bit different. Some tournaments we're actually paying host fees to host the visiting teams. Other tournaments, the dynamics are different with each one.
Right. So there's money coming in directly or from the field itself, but also the economic development, obviously.
Yeah, the money that's spent from the teams, from the visitors, from the fans. Once they're in the community, they're spending money. So it's a significant ROI on it. That's a little bit hard to measure.
I was going to ask you: is there any kind of data available on the economic development of those things?
Well, there is. Some of the measurements we use, we see the increase in traffic counts, and we know the number of participants, the number of people that are in our community, more people that are in your community. Ideally, that's more people that are spending money at your restaurants, service stations, retail shops, et cetera.
Have you talked to the business community about what traffic they're seeing when you have these tournaments?
Oh, they thrive. They thrive on these weekends. I mean, what we want to do is create an environment where when they're in between games, they're staying close to the sports complex. And that's what's happening with the continued reinvestment into the facility. Last year, we opened a splash pad for, if you're in between games, if you, have younger siblings that aren't playing in the sports on the fields, things that they can do with the expansion coming open this year. Opening an outdoor amphitheater, a really large, I believe it's about 8,000 square foot inclusive play set is going to be open this summer. So continuing to add a lot more programming, not just for economic development, but for our residents and
quality
really
of life.
Yeah, for those in the region as well.
Mayor, let me ask you, because you referenced, we started talking about the sports complex and you referenced your predecessor, Wilson Viator. You were a council member. Can you recall, because it's interesting to find out how these projects come about, did Mayor Viator study another city that had built a sports complex to bring tax revenue into its municipality?
Yes. In fact, Mayor Viator and his team at the time organized a charter bus, and that group traveled around the I-10 region. I remember vividly going to the facilities that were run in Lake Charles. I think it was SPAR was the acronym there for their team. So Cypress Mound, I believe, was another one in the area. Really just going to see what's working right, what can we do better, and how can we bring that home to Youngsville.
That's good government at work.
Boy, no kidding. It is 7:17. We have a lot more to talk about, and Mayor Ken Ritter doesn't mind taking some calls. If you have questions for him, as a matter of fact, he welcomes them. So give us a call, 337-232-1542. Do you have a question about what's going on in Youngsville? Please give us a call, 337-232-1542.
Forbes broke the story obtaining court documents where law enforcement officials asked Google's YouTube to turn over IP addresses, names, addresses, telephone numbers, and user activity for all users that viewed a certain YouTube video that had over 30,000 views, all in their effort to figure out the identity of a Google user they thought could have viewed the video who was suspected of money laundering. But the amount of information that the law enforcement was asking for meant that potentially thousands of innocent Google users would have been caught caught up in law enforcement's hunt. Google says they take law enforcement requests seriously and balance helping them while protecting user privacy. Quote, "We have a rigorous process designed to protect the privacy and constitutional rights of our users. We examine each demand for legal validity consistent with developing case law, and we routinely push back against overbroad or otherwise inappropriate demands for user data, including objecting to some of those demands entirely." With Fox on Tech, Hillary Vaughn, Fox Business.
A pretty decent looking forecast out there today. Temperatures at about 83 degrees with winds from the south at 5 to 10 miles an hour. We'll see a little more cloud cover out there compared to the last couple of days, and a gradual increase in clouds as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend. Weekend forecast still doesn't look too bad, with partly to mostly cloudy skies for Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures going to be sitting in the low to mid-80s. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
Still showing a residential fire in unincorporated Lafayette Parish, Cameron Street at Olye Street. So you might see some emergency vehicles there. No other accidents to talk about right now. KPEL News Time 7:23. Current temperature 61 degrees. Good morning. Welcome back into Acadiana's Morning News, specifically Morning Minutes on this Wednesday morning. Mayor's Minutes, I should say. I like cute names. I don't know. Kind of makes me feel happy. Youngsville Mayor Ken Ritter is in right now. And remember, if you have questions for Mayor Ritter, then give us a call, 232-1542 with a 337 in front of it. Right now, we want to talk about permitting because, Mark, you had a topic of interest to you, and you wanted to talk to Mayor Ritter about it too.
Yeah, so let me tell the folks what I'm going to do, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to set up a situation that happened with our federal government, specifically our Supreme Court, and I label it insanity. And then after I describe that brief situation, then I'm going to come back to Mayor Ritter and talk about sanity with the permitting process, you know, getting a permit for building and property use and that type of thing. Okay, so here's the situation. Recent unanimous decision by the U.S. Supreme Court involved a gentleman called George Sheets, and it goes back to 2016. Mr. Sheets was a retired engineer. He said, I'm going to buy this plot of land in rural North California, and I'm going to erect a manufactured home because it's cheapest and it's functional, it's passed all government approval and so on and so forth. So Mr. Sheets goes to get his permitting, and when with the permit, the state of California said, and oh yeah, and by the way, there is a $23,000 permit fee for future roads. And so he paid that, but then he knew all along he was going to challenge it. So it through those years, those 8 years, it's gone up through the court systems with appeals. It made it to the U.S. Supreme Court, and I'm not going to talk about, I'm just going to tell you what the Supreme Court ruled. Based on the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment, there are violations there. You can't impose these over-the-top fees like California did because there were no future roads planned. And so they said, no, that is not something that you can do. And so he ultimately won and got his $23,000 back. But that is crazy to have to fight the system like that for 8 years, spend your money for lawsuits and appeals. But then let's bring it back down here to South Louisiana and specifically to Youngsville, because I know in the past you have nixed permitting fees for commercial developments, and you're currently doing that in Youngsville. So tell us when you apply a permitting fee, what is that going toward in Youngsville?
Yeah, well, excellent question. And you know, first with the key word that you just said, and I don't know if it was relevant in the Supreme Court case, but it was a rural area piece of property where there was probably no plans for road improvements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in our case, I mean, we want to be very easy to do business with. The city council has demonstrated again that they want to promote that type of environment. So we're currently not charging permit fees for commercial development. We want people to invest in our community, and we want what would have been a couple of $1,000s invested into permit plan fees to be, we believe it's better invested back into the business, into their people, into their profits, into their product. But similarly, I would offer that we just did some right sizing of the fees that we assess because we haven't evaluated them since 2015, and there is a increased growing demand for water and sewer utilities. So it's my opinion that if the money is going towards connections, if you want to live in the incorporated area, you need water, you need sewer. So there has to be a betterment, if you will, to be able to provide those services. I think that that's reasonable. I think that that's wise. I think that someone that's coming in to create the demand should be sharing in the costs to provide the services that you're coming to the incorporated area to enjoy. But just a blanket, we may do assessment.
Yeah, it was pie in the sky. Yeah.
I can see how that would be challenged, of course. I mean, in our case, we can very confidently show, here's our charge. This is what's going to a plan review. And this is what may be going, or this is what will be going, rather, to the betterment for roads that are specific to your development or to a water and sewer impact. Because let's face it, I mean, what's the point of a new development if we can't guarantee that we're going to have water or sewer service to service that new home or that new development?
And even with an established part of Youngsville in a neighborhood, you've got to hook up water and sewer. You've got electrical. You've got a lot of hookups. You've got a lot of inspections that have to be done. So your residential fees, even though they are there, they're reasonable.
Yes.
They're reasonable.
Yeah, and betterment, I guess, if you will, that's not really new. I mean, a lot of the new development that you see happening today across Youngsville, there's turning lanes that are being put in. Well, largely those are turning lane is an example,
right?
But it may be some other betterment to improve traffic to that particular development. We don't want a new development to adversely impact those that have lived there for their lifetime, for the last decade, or even for the last week.
Right.
We want to make sure that that there's no adverse impact, and charging fees that are appropriate and directly relatable to the impact of that development makes sense. It's not going into a future slush fund for what-if scenarios. The projects are very well thought out, and we can show what it's going to.
And speaking of fees and those sorts of things, we are going to talk about an interesting topic after we take a look at news, and that is fire protection in the unincorporated areas of the parish. That has been a strain on municipalities, and Mayor Ken Ritter is going to tell us what his feelings are and what he would like to see going forward. KPEL News Time, 7:30. I would like to share with our listeners that if you're thinking, oh man, I'm going to go to festival and walk around and my feet are going to hurt and my back is going to hurt and my knees are going to hurt, it's time to go to the Good Feet store right now before Festival International, so that you can get those arch supports, so that you can put them in your shoes and you can have a great time walking around, dancing, visiting with friends. One of the things that I like is that you don't just have to wear one pair of shoes all the time. You can move the arch supports from one shoe to another. Sore feet, they are going to spoil your festival. Don't let them do that. Go to the Good Feet store today. They are on Ambassador Caffrey, right next to Chicken Salad Chick. Walk in. You don't need an appointment. You have questions? Go ahead and ask all the questions you need. If you are dealing with chronic pain, if you are dealing with a situation where when you walk around a lot, you know you're going to have a backache, you know your feet are going to hurt, you know your hips are going to hurt, go try it out today. Ask the questions. Visit. They are located again on Ambassador Caffrey, right next to Chicken Salad Chick. Go by the Good Feet store before Festival International is upon them.
KPEL covers Acadiana with Lowry's Printing and Copying.
38th Annual Le Festival International de Louisiane happens Wednesday, April 24th through Sunday, April 28th throughout downtown Lafayette. This is the world's largest cultural and music festival, and it's free. You can volunteer to be a festival helper. In many ways, just show up and tell them you'd like to volunteer. Get the complete music lineup and everything available at the festival at their website, festivalinternational.org. Saturday, April 27th in New Iberia, Festival of Live Oaks happens 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at New Iberia City Park. A barbecue cook-off, train rides, petting zoo, fun jumps, and other activities for the kids. Too much to mention here. To get more details, give them a call at 337-369-2337. See you in New Iberia, Saturday, April 27th, Festival of Live Oaks.
This hour brought to you by Matthew James Tax and Wealth Management. Online at MatthewJames.com.
Your 24/7 news source. On air, online, and with the KPEL News app. Now the headlines from the KPEL News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wirtz with a look at news on this Wednesday, April 24th. Festival International kicks off this evening in downtown Lafayette. If you can't find a parking space downtown, a shuttle will be running from the UL Health Science parking garage to the festival grounds. Streets in downtown Lafayette will be closed during event hours. Music starts tonight at Scene Fade Odo near the intersection of Jefferson and Lee. At the Capitol, legislation to remove nitrogen hypoxia as a means of execution passed in the Senate after 2 votes. The first vote was tied, and then it passed 22-16 and advances to the House. Monroe Representative Katrina Jackson Andrews asked for a suspension of the rules because she believes some members mistakenly voted against the bill the first time. She reminded Senate members the bill does not repeal the death penalty, only the use of gas for execution. Jackson Andrews filed the measure at the request of members of the Jewish community because of the method's connection to the Holocaust. Louisiana public school teachers would receive a cut in pay, and early childhood education would see a reduction in state funding under the budget proposal approved by House Appropriations. The spending bill would reduce a $2,000 stipend that teachers receive on top of their regular salary down to $1,300. House Appropriation Chairman Jack McFarland says they had to reduce proposed teacher stipends and cut $24 million from early childhood education to fully fund the K-12 public school funding formula that Bessie submitted to the legislature. The budget process is not over yet, and lawmakers could find a way to cover the stipend at that higher level. Legislation to provide protections for in vitro fertilization clinics in Louisiana advanced favorably from the House Civil Law Committee and will go before the full House next week. Bill author Baton Rouge Representative Paula Davis says after a Supreme Court ruling in Alabama caused IVF clinics to close, she wanted to keep that from happening here. The Alabama Supreme Court ruled that a frozen embryo is considered a child, and if the embryo is destroyed, it's wrongful death. To avoid criminal charges, IVF clinics there closed. The bill only affects IVF and does not impact the state's abortion ban. The trial for murder suspect Joshua Willis continues today in Lafayette. Willis is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the 2016 deaths of Ashley Metz and her boyfriend, Brooklyn Hill. The 2 were found in separate vehicles in Scott and Karen Crow. They had been shot and the cars set on fire. A second suspect and Willis's nephew, Joseph Sylvester, accepted a plea in the case in exchange for his testimony against his uncle. Willis faces life in prison or the death penalty if he's convicted. The Federal Trade Commission Tuesday voted to ban non-compete agreements that prevent employees from leaving their jobs for other companies or starting their own businesses. Some business groups are expected to take legal action over fear the ruling may leave their proprietary and intellectual property vulnerable. The rule will go into effect 120 days after it's published in the Federal Register, and even existing non-compete agreements will be thrown out, with a few exceptions for senior executives. LCG and Keep Lafayette Beautiful are hosting their annual paper shredding day on Saturday from 9 to noon at the Robichaux Center. Residents of Lafayette and the unincorporated areas can have confidential documents shredded to protect their personal information and reduce the risk of identity theft. Each household is limited to 3 kitchen-sized garbage bags. The Department of Wildlife and Fisheries is now offering the option to buy Louisiana waterfowl conservation stamps online. Customers can still purchase the 2024-25 duck stamp at licensed vendors and at the LDWF Baton Rouge headquarters. Those stamps will be available starting June 1st. The Ragin' Cajuns host Houston Christian tonight at the Teague. First pitch is scheduled for 6 p.m., and you can listen to the game right here on 96.5 KPEL. That's a look at your news. I'm Tracy Wall.
I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I'm a teacher. I make more.
Make more. Teach. Visit teach.org. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Going to start seeing a few clouds trickling in here as we go through the day today. Going to be a little bit warmer out there as well. Those temperatures up at about 83 degrees. Still fairly quiet, though, and still plenty of sunshine. This maybe not as much as we've had the last couple of days. Lows tonight going to start to be a little bit warmer. We are staying in the 60s here, 63 overnight tonight. Continuing to warm up and feeling a little bit muggier towards the end of the week. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
We do have an accident on Carmel Drive right near the Diocese of Lafayette office. Current temperature 61 degrees. KPEL News Time is 7:40 as we continue Mayor's Minutes with Youngsville Mayor Ken Ritter this morning, and we are going to talk about fire protection in the unincorporated areas of the parish. Set this up for us, Ken.
Yeah, so fire protection in Youngsville is paid for by a dedicated property tax. That property tax then in turn pays for fire protection within our incorporated limits. And
so let's just, and reminder that if you pay property tax and live in the city of Youngsville, that's who pays it. If you live in that area, so that's what you pay for in your city.
Correct. That's a great clarification. The issue is part of Lafayette Parish is unincorporated. Mm-hmm. The unincorporated residents, they're our neighbors. We love them like neighbors, but they're not paying for this service. Currently, the solution with Lafayette Consolidated Government is they have very limited general funds that they're able to send to a parish fire association, which then divvies those funds amongst 7 departments, Youngsville being one of them, throughout the parish to respond to the unincorporated areas. Mm-hmm. It probably was a great solution for many years. However, it's no longer a great solution. As an example, in the year 2022, nearly 45% of the city of Youngsville's responses from the fire department were to the unincorporated area. In exchange for only about 8% of our funding was from the parish of our total budget. So it's not my opinion, it's a fact that it's the revenue that we're getting from the parish to service the unincorporated area is simply not commensurate with the service that we're providing for them. So my assessment of it is the city of Youngsville, as the other fire departments, we are vendors to Lafayette Parish to provide this service to the unincorporated area. Frankly, I don't know if the unincorporated area really wants this service or not. They're not my constituents. What I do know is that this is a model that's unsustainable. The city of Youngsville, or the Youngsville Volunteer Fire Department, I should say, because it is a private entity,
right,
that the city of Youngsville contracts for our fire protection. But what I can say is that what may have been a good solution for years is no longer. We need to implore the parish council and those members, those citizens in the unincorporated area, if you want fire protection, you've got to let your elected representative know, because the free ride and the philanthropy, that road is coming to an end. The Youngsville Fire Department can no longer provide this service for pennies on the dollar in comparison to what a Youngsville resident taxpayer is paying for the same service.
Yeah, that makes... Okay, so Youngsville, you have only a volunteer fire department? Is that what I heard?
So the name is the Youngsville Volunteer Fire Department. We have a fire department. It's an independent group, and there's a board of directors. That's their governing board. Youngsville taxpayers, we have a property millage that's dedicated for fire protection. We receive it at City Hall, and we hand it over to the fire department. We have a professional services contract where we contract that service with the Youngsville Volunteer Fire Department. Similarly, the Lafayette Parish contracts with us to provide the service for the unincorporated area.
But the number of calls and the amount of money they don't match.
It's totally disproportionate, and we can no longer. We're nearing the end of being able to provide this service for the few dollars that we're receiving. You know, a couple years ago, the leadership in Youngsville made a decision that we wanted to invest in our first responders, and what a wise decision that was. We want to have a career department. We want to have a department that's professional. We want to have a department that's responsive. You have to pay for that service. Mm-hmm. That service is not free, and that service is something that we're very proud of. And as a resident of Youngsville and as a taxpayer of Youngsville, we place value in that. We place a value in that service so much to where we are providing general fund dollars to supplement the property tax that we receive for fire protection. Right. So my call today is simply to remind our parish elected leadership that as a vendor for the parish that's providing this service to the unincorporated area, if this is a service that you want to continue enjoying, you're going to have to pay for it. Everything's gone up. Gone up. But beyond that, we were already too far behind from the funds we're receiving for what we're providing to the unincorporated area.
Mm-hmm. Let me remind our listeners of something that happened back when Mayor Guillory took office in 2020. There was a property millage that went to, quote, arts and culture. The program was called Create. It was sold to the public. The public had to approve that new millage. And it was actually moving a millage from an existing millage. It wasn't that much, but it was sold as a, quote, jobs initiative. Yeah. It was feckless. I'm going to be frank and say so. Mayor Guillory went to the council. They approved it, and then the voters of Lafayette Parish approved taking that roughly $600,000 from the Create property millage and moving it to fire protection in the rural area and drainage. Yeah. But that money, even though it was hundreds of thousands of dollars to fire protection in rural Lafayette, was woefully inadequate.
Yeah, well, that's woefully inadequate. And what's interesting about that is, as a parish resident, I was paying the tax for Create. And now that Create tax is being divvied up for rural fire protection, but I'm already paying for fire protection.
Right.
So I think it was a good step. It was a great effort to try to, I call it reclass or right-size the millages that exist. And I do think that Mayor Guillory at the time did make some good steps forward to move us in that right direction. The budget that we're operating under now, or the cooperative endeavor agreement that we're operating under now, they were able to come up with, I believe it was $485,000 of additional funds to be split amongst 6 or 7 agencies that are helping to respond to the unincorporated area. But my appreciation of it is it's one-time dollars. So when we renegotiate a new contract to be effective October of this year, I don't have any level of comfort that one-time dollars is going to follow into our new contract. And even if that one-time dollars becomes two-time dollars, it's still woefully inadequate for the service that we are providing for the unincorporated area.
Sure. And
so this is not a pitch for me to say anything about taxes. I represent the citizens and the taxpayers of Youngsville. We are a vendor for Lafayette Parish to provide a service for Lafayette Parish. Mm-hmm. My message is the cost of doing business. We can't provide this service for what we're receiving any longer. Mm-hmm. Perhaps the parish has a better solution, but I'm putting them on notice, as we have several times before, that the honeymoon's over. It's been 100 days of a new administration. What's the solution?
Yeah. Example, Judice, you said multiple agencies. Judice is not incorporated. They are an unincorporated area, but there is a Judice volunteer fire department. They need that assistance from them. So talk about the fire rating, if you would, Mayor, in unincorporated parish. Oh, you need a break?
Yeah, no, we don't need a break, but we are getting some comments and questions from our listeners.
Oh, sure.
And we encourage you to call in if you do have questions, 337-232-1542. Blaine writes in, he's from Youngsville. I don't know if he lives in incorporated or unincorporated. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Several municipalities fund fire protection with sales tax dollars. People in unincorporated Youngsville shop in Youngsville and pay sales taxes there. Could something be done that way? Ray Bork, who obviously is the mayor in Broussard, made a comment a few years ago that people in unincorporated Broussard pay Broussard sales tax at local businesses. And that's a fair question. Could the sales tax system be adjusted, do you think?
That's a great question, and that's one that Parish Councilman Carlson posed to me as well. He posed to me at the time. He says, listen, I shop at Super One in Youngsville. Therefore, I feel like I'm contributing to your tax base. And I said, well, yes, you are. Thank you. And when something happens to you in Youngsville, we'll be there and we're going to respond to you. But those services don't follow you back to your house. I mean, Tracy, you live, I believe, in Crowley.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, thank you for shopping here locally while you're in Lafayette Parish working. But I think it's unrealistic to expect that we're going to go lights and sirens to your home in Crowley,
right?
To take care of you when you're there. So, each of our cities does fund it differently. If that's how Broussard does it, that's great. I mean, we have a dedicated property tax that we supplement with extra funds that are undedicated. Those undedicated funds could be invested into roads. It could be invested into higher pay for our first responders. It could be invested into a myriad of priorities at the direction of our city council.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, it just makes perfect sense. And this way too, with the property tax, that's a more solid number versus sales tax. Could fluctuate, and then the funding for fire or those sorts of services, it'll be more difficult to plan for those dollars, for a sales tax dollar than it would a property tax dollar.
No, that's absolutely correct.
I don't know if we have another question, but a question is that you can address is fire rating.
Yes.
I don't know what it is in unincorporated Lafayette Parish. It's a 4 or a 5. I believe City of Lafayette recently acquired is it a 1?
Well, I think the unincorporated area is a 5. I know Youngsville.
And 5 is the lower end of the...
okay. The 1 would be the best.
Okay, just want to make sure, put it in perspective for folks.
The Youngsville response area within our incorporated limits is a 3.
Mm-hmm.
So for the service and for the funding that we receive, our response time in the measurement of a fire rating of 3 within the city limits of Youngsville is probably about, it's good. It's probably about as good as we can have today without, there has to be a return on the investment, and to move the needle all the way to improve to a 2 may not be in our immediate plan. But the unincorporated area is really, we have adequate funding to take care of my residents.
Right.
This is not a Youngsville taxpayer. We don't have enough money. This isn't me saying that I need more money from my taxpayers. What I'm saying is, if we are going to continue to be asked to provide the service to the unincorporated area needs to come together with their leadership to say, this is a service we believe in, this is a service that we want, and this is a service that we're willing to work to determine what is that reoccurring funding source. Because I do believe the Youngsville Fire Department is in the best position to continue responding to those areas. It wouldn't make sense for the Lafayette Fire Department to invest in new stations on the south end of town. I argue that we can provide the service more efficiently, more effectively. Our department, because it's privately run, isn't bound to the high contribution of the firefighters' retirement system. They have a great we have a great retirement for our firemen, but it's not as costly as the traditional state fire system.
The better your fire rating, the less your insurance. That's how this discussion applies to homeowners.
Yeah. And so the question becomes, the issue is, do folks who live in the municipalities and pay the taxes for those services, is it fair to continue to have them carry the water, so to speak, for those folks who live in the unincorporated areas of the parish? Fair?
That is ultimately that is the question. Absolutely. And this isn't unique to Youngsville. I'm here just speaking on behalf of myself.
I understand.
As a taxpayer, resident of Youngsville. But each of the other departments, have the similar numbers. Broussard, Karen Crow, Scott respond to a lot of the unincorporated areas as well with similar funding challenges.
Mayor Ken Ritter, City of Youngsville, thank you so very much. Up next, we have Lafayette Parish Superintendent Francis Touchet.
Business Report is brought to you by Walter Campbell and Deborah Pierce of Keller Williams Realty. For all of your commercial property needs, reach out to Walter and Deborah today.
I'm Stuart Varney, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Toy maker Hasbro is holding up better than Wall Street was anticipating. It's reporting solid progress in its turnaround efforts. Its earnings top forecast and Hasbro shares are up 6%. AT&T is reporting a big jump in subscribers with a monthly bill, and its financial situation is better than a year ago. Health insurer Humana's earnings and revenue were both upbeat. It's raising its expectations for growth in its Medicare Advantage plan. Mortgage rates measured by the Mortgage Bankers Association topped 7% last week. Its average for the 30-year fixed mortgage rose to 7.24% in the week ending April 19th. The MBA says demand for adjustable rate mortgages has been picking up. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosolda. Invested in you.
Hi, I'm Ron Kraszewski, Chairman and CEO of Stifel. Financial advisors, let's face it, if you're not growing your practice, you're losing market share. Stifel is a growing, entrepreneurial, advisor-centric firm built for successful advisors like you. There's a reason why 148 financial advisors joined Stifel last year. Come join us and find out why Stifel is the firm where success meets success. Visit www.choosestifel.com.
Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
To a criminal case after the agreement expired in January. The meeting comes against the backdrop of increased scrutiny of Boeing following recent mid-air emergencies involving MAX jets.
Fox's Jeff Manasso. Now an update on a ransomware cyber attack. United Health says it did pay the ransom to the hackers
to protect patient data during a February cyber attack on its company Change Healthcare. Not revealing the amount paid, but blaming a Russia-based cybercrime gang it says was able to access protected and personal information that could cover a substantial proportion of people in America. Federal officials are also investigating the breach. The company has launched a call center and a page on its website for concerned patients offering free credit monitoring. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
On Wall Street, stock futures are mixed, down for the Dow, up for the NASDAQ before the opening bell this hour. I'm Dave Anthony. This is Fox News.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL, Breaux Bridge, Lafayette, broadcasting from the Matthew James Tax and Wealth Management Studios.
Your 24/7 news source, on air, online, and with the KPEL News app. Now the headlines from the KPEL News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wertz with a look at news on this Wednesday, April 24th. Festival International kicks off this evening in downtown Lafayette. If you can't find a parking space downtown, a shuttle will be running from the UL Health Science parking garage to the festival grounds. Streets in downtown Lafayette will be closed during event hours. Music starts tonight at Scene Fade Odo near the intersection of Jefferson and Lee. At the Capitol, legislation to remove nitrogen hypoxia as a means of execution passed in the Senate after 2 votes. The first vote was tied, and then it passed 22-16 and advances to the House. Monroe Representative Katrina Jackson Andrews asked for a suspension of the rules because she believes some members mistakenly voted against the bill the first time. She reminded Senate members the bill does not repeal the death penalty, only the use of gas for execution. Jackson Andrews filed the measure at the request of members of the Jewish community because of the method's connection to the Holocaust. Louisiana public school teachers would receive a cut in pay, and early childhood education would see a reduction in state funding under the budget proposal approved by House Appropriations. The spending bill would reduce a $2,000 stipend that teachers receive on top of their regular salary down to $1,300. House Appropriation Chairman Jack McFarland says they had to reduce proposed teacher stipends and cut $24 million from early childhood education to fully fund the K-12 public school funding formula that Bessie submitted to the legislature. The budget process is not over yet, and lawmakers could find a way to cover the stipend at that higher level. Legislation to provide protections for in vitro fertilization clinics in Louisiana advanced favorably from the House Civil Law Committee and will go before the full House next week. Bill author Baton Rouge Representative Paula Davis says after a Supreme Court ruling in Alabama caused IVF clinics to close, she wanted to keep that from happening here. The Alabama Supreme Court ruled that a frozen embryo is considered a child, and if the embryo is destroyed, it's wrongful death. To avoid criminal charges, IVF clinics there closed. The bill only affects IVF and does not impact the state's abortion ban. The trial for murder suspect Joshua Willis continues today in Lafayette. Willis is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the 2016 deaths of Ashley Metz and her boyfriend, Brooklyn Hill. The two were found in separate vehicles in Scott and Karen Crow. They had been shot and the car set on fire. A second suspect and Willis's nephew, Joseph Sylvester, accepted a plea in the case in exchange for his testimony against his uncle. Willis faces life in prison or the death penalty if he's convicted. The Ragin' Cajuns host Houston Christian tonight at the Teague. First pitch is scheduled for 6 p.m., and you can listen to the game right here on 96.5 KPEL. That's a look at your news. I'm Tracy Wirtz.
It's time to win cash. Get your KPEL News apps ready because here's your chance to win up to $30,000. Just enter the following code into your KPEL News app where it says win cash, and make sure you listen for more codes throughout the day because the more codes you enter, the better your chances. Here is your next code.
Rise and shine, everybody. Time for that 8 a.m. code. It is 798. Your 8 a.m. code is 798.
Going to start seeing a few clouds trickling in here as we go through the day today. Going to be a little bit warmer out there as well. Those temperatures up at about 83 degrees. Still fairly quiet, though, and still plenty of sunshine. It's maybe not as much as we've had the last couple of days. Lows tonight going to start to be a little bit warmer. We are staying in the 60s here, 63 overnight tonight. Continuing to warm up and feeling a little bit muggier towards the end of the week. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
All right, we have an accident on West Willow Street, 1600 block. That's right near J. Wallace James Elementary. Another accident southeast Evangeline Thruway at Pinhook. So be careful in those areas. You'll see some emergency vehicles. Hopefully they move it off the roadway quickly. We are up to 65 degrees. Good morning and welcome back into Acadiana's Morning News. On this Wednesday, I need to hit this button, Francis, because, Tracy's going to come through the computer. We are joined this morning by Lafayette Parish Superintendent Francis Touchet. He is joined by Matt Dugas, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services for LPSS. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Tracy. Good morning, Tracy. Good to see you.
It's good to see you guys, too, and it's always interesting to find out what's going on at Lafayette Parish School System with the number of students you have, all the schools, that sort of thing. But business services, that means we're going to talk about money this morning, right, Francis? Tell us what's up.
Yeah, so, Tracy, over the last 2 months, our team has been engaged in a process that normally takes place at this time every year, in which we kind of look at what our needs are as far as the school system. We see what those different things are that are coming in as far as revenue. And Matt and his team, which does an excellent job of just making sure that they align to what our priorities are, kind of put together a budget so that our board can kind of engage with and can have some type of discussions around what are we looking for as far as the 24-25 school year is concerned. And one of the priorities that we go into as far as the budget is concerned is we always put instruction as a priority, making sure that every decision that we make is always centered around what does that classroom teacher need to be able to provide those needs for those students.
Now, this year we had you had some budgeting issues. We all remember the $30 million figure. So I'm sure that those sorts of things are being are being taken into consideration as you plan for next year, right, Matt?
Yes, ma'am. We had an early budget meeting that kind of presented to the board the challenges that were hitting us from left and right. Those challenges being charter schools, end of ESSER funding, what we call the ESSER cliff, and also sales tax that they're not increasing, but they're not decreasing. They're just kind of stabilizing.
Right.
So we can't depend on an increase in sales tax to fund some of these shortfalls. So we had to really get creative in coming to terms with how to balance this budget and face these challenges. One of the biggest ones being charter schools and the diversion of both state and local money to those charter schools, being that they're adding additional seats.
They being the charter schools?
The charter schools, yes.
Right.
So the charter school funding happens, they send a portion of MFP state revenue, but what they also send is a portion of our local revenue. So every time...
Really? I didn't realize that.
Yes, and with the local revenue, one thing you have, a lot of our local revenue is dedicated by the taxpayers, dedicated by the voters. Those dedications do not go to the charter schools.
Okay.
They get that money unencumbered.
Okay.
It's very important to understand. So if we have the 2002 tax that was passed by taxpayers, had very, very specific spending limits and controls on that, and we take that very seriously. The day we collect the penny, it goes into a separate bank account, a separate accounting system. We account for every penny that comes in as spent to those priorities, and that's audited, and we have been in compliance since the day we collected penny one. Say we collect, just for example purposes, $10 million in sales in 2002 sales tax, and they decide the charter schools gets $1 or $2 million of that. So we really get $8 million, but we have to account for 10. So the $2 million that went to the charter school goes totally unencumbered by those restrictions, and they don't have to account for that. But we have to make up that 2 somewhere, because we still have to spend the $10 million that we got, even though they got 2 of it.
Really?
Well,
yes.
Who is they, though? Who is directing this money to the charter schools? Is it the Lafayette Parish School Board? Is it the State Board of Education?
It's the state through legislation. What they do, they allocate, say, oh, you collected $10 million, 2 should have gone to the charter school. Let's call it MFP, which is a grant from the state. So they take our MFP, they lower it by $2 million and send it to the charter schools. So they call it MFP, which has no restrictions. So those restrictions that the taxpayer and the voter put on that money is not being followed. The restrictions, the liability of that stays with the school system, and it's simply unsustainable.
Well, it's unsustainable, and it doesn't sound very fair.
And Tracy,
I don't understand a whole lot about accounting, but
you
it doesn't
understand a lot.
No, that doesn't sound very fair. That you guys are responsible for the accounting system for schools you don't control.
Right.
Correct.
And Tracy and Mark, again, I've been talking about this over and over that we have no problem with competition. We need to compete. We need to make sure that, we believe in parent choice. But when it's all said and done, we need to make sure that the rules that we have are the same rules that are actually following the dollars that go to these charter schools. So again, I go back to is we have things that we have to account for, and it's something that needs to be accounted for wherever the money goes to.
Right.
And let me put this in perspective. So this year in fiscal 25, they will get $41 million of local revenue.
They being the charter schools in Lafayette Parish.
Lafayette Parish that have Lafayette Parish students in them. It's based on your count and where your address is.
Oh, so let's say the ones if there's a forgive me, I don't know all the locations. So this could conceivably also being affecting parishes that are neighboring.
Correct.
If their students come into this parish.
Right. We see about 80% currently of the charter school students that have Lafayette Parish addresses, but they also have St. Martin, Vermilion, Iberia, St. Landry. Everybody that can drive to there, they can go to that school, and that money comes out of that system in the same way. So the $41 million of local revenues on top of $21 million of state revenues that are going to these schools with no kind of restriction at all to them. Also, there's no political representation. You have taxation with representation. Where's our representation for that charter school? Their board is not elected. So you have it's approved by Bessie. So as a taxpayer in Lafayette Parish, I get to vote for a Bessie member who doesn't live here currently, who doesn't pay taxes here currently, and represents 7 or 8 other parishes, and is one vote of 11 on the Bessie board. So if I'm a parent in a charter school and I have a problem with something that happens in a charter school, who do I go to? If I'm at Lafayette High and I have a problem, I can go to Ryder Bertrand. He's my school board member. Or I can go to Caleb Boo, who I know personally. So there's people I can go to and say, hey, I really think something bad is happening at this high school. If that's happening in a charter school, who do you go to?
Right.
The board is voluntary. Who picks that board? So you have taxation without representation in this situation.
We're going to take a quick break and continue this very interesting conversation with Lafayette Parish School Superintendent Francis Touchet and Matt Dugas, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services for LPSS. KPEL News Time 8:19. Ooh, as we think about Festival International, I bet your toes are tapping just hearing the music in your head. And if your toes are in your shoes and your shoes hurt your feet, then you need to go by the Good Feet store. You're going to be doing a lot of walking downtown Lafayette, having a whole lot of fun. You don't want to get home at the end of the day and think, oh my gosh, I can't do this again tomorrow. Yes, you can go to the Good Feet store. If you have problems with your feet, if you have problems with your knees, your hips, your back, this may be the solution for you. Before you go to Festival, go to the Good Feet store. They're right next to Chicken Salad Chick on Ambassador Caffrey. You don't need an appointment. Walk right in. The Good Feet store. You could get rid of your pain without shots, surgery, medication. It's just as simple as walking into the Good Feet store and taking a test walk. The Good Feet store fits your own shoes, too. So bring those in. What shoes are you going to wear to Festival? Bring them into Good Feet store with you today. Ambassador Caffrey, right next to Chicken Salad Chick.
A pretty decent looking forecast out there today. Temperatures at about 83 degrees with winds from the south at 5 to 10 miles an hour. We'll see a little more cloud cover out there compared to the last couple of days, and a gradual increase in clouds as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend. Weekend forecast still doesn't look too bad, with partly to mostly cloudy skies for Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures going to be sitting in the low to mid 80s. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
All right, we've got an accident. Reading Avenue and Willow Avenue. That is right near J. Wallace James Elementary. Another accident southeast of Angelin Thruway and Pinhook, so be careful in those areas. Current temperature is 65 degrees. We continue our conversation this morning with Lafayette Parish School Superintendent Francis Touchet, and we certainly appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule to come in each week to tell us what's going on in Lafayette Parish schools. How many students are in the Lafayette Parish school system?
We have over 30,000 students.
Okay, so a lot of folks affected by the decisions they make and what's going on. And also joining us today is Matt Dugas, who I'll just call the money man, kind of heads up making sure that the budgets are in place and all the dollars are accounted for. As you were saying, every single penny is accounted for. And we've been talking specifically about charter schools, how the funding for that is directed or in some cases diverted. And playing devil's advocate here, there may be parents listening and their child's in a charter school and they're thinking, well, you know what? My child's doing really well and I want to have that choice. And, are you saying that we shouldn't have that opportunity for children?
Well, Tracy, I'll say again, and I've said it over and over, parents should have choice. And we have no problem here in Lafayette Parish saying that, hey, you have a choice. I always go back to is with the monies that are following these kids, there should be the same rules that are also being impacted, whether it be here in Lafayette Parish or everyone else or wherever else this money is going to.
Because the money is public money. It's taxpayer money.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But there's no representation by anybody who elected anybody for the money going to that school. There's no accountability from an elector.
Right.
I can't elect anybody that has control over that money, and that's where personally I have a problem. Is that it's a non-democratic thing. They get the money unencumbered by what the taxpayer put on that money. That goes away. So you can say the money follows the child, but the restrictions on that money placed by the taxpayer paying it does not follow the child. And that's unfair.
And you talk about, Francis, you've talked several times about the accountability for charter schools. And, I think that we've addressed the financial accountability and the concern there. But is the efficacy of the education at a charter school measured? And is it measured at the state level, or is it just we're going to write you a check and let you do what you do? I don't know. I don't know what that model is.
Well, and again, whether you look at it of what we're doing here or anywhere else, again, a lot of this is dictated for what happens in Baton Rouge, and what comes to us is what we actually have to follow. And those same type of rules that we have to obey by are not the same rules that these charter schools happen to go by.
Okay. They're supposed to have a population that reflects the community, and they have failed in that, and they continue to fail then. I believe this year they've actually gotten worse. Mm-hmm. So when you talk special needs kids, we had an increase of 47 additional autism kids this year, which we provide great services to, but it takes 3 adults for every 4 autism kids. So we got 47 more. We were supposed to cut staff because we had a reduction in enrollment, but that had to be significantly reduced because we needed 17 new teachers and 17 new paras for all these new autism kids that came to class. Special ed, English as a second language. Even though our enrollment's dropping, we're seeing an increase in those what we call high-cost, high-need students, and the state just doesn't provide enough money for that. So we have to find that money. But those students don't seem to be going to the charter schools, and what we're seeing in the numbers is they're supposed to meet those requirements. They are not meeting those requirements.
Mm. Look, I want to. I'm going to be able to set this up where if we take bottom of the hour news, I'm not going to be able to answer anything. But this is my take. The education equation is not often defined, and it's very complicated. You've got students who need to be willing, able to learn. And some of the students that are in the school system are not ready, willing, and able to learn. You've got a home situation with parents. If those parents aren't supportive and encouraging the kids to accomplish in school, and then you've got the teachers, and the teachers take the blame oftentimes. Well, you're in a failing school. Your kids are failing. Whose fault is that? Is it the teacher's fault because the teacher is not effective? So, and here's the question maybe you guys can answer after our bottom of the hour break. Does taking a student who's not ready, willing, and able to learn and move that student to a charter school, does that suddenly make the student an able recipient of education? You have to be willing to receive the education. You don't just open up the head and pour it in. So I don't understand.
Are you sure, Mark?
No, I'm sure.
Kidding. No, I'm kidding.
But I don't understand this charter. The school is not failing. The sum of the parts is greater than the whole. In other words, a failing school means you have a bunch of students who are not learning and producing the test results that are needed. Why is that? You have to look at that complicated equation. The home life, the student, him or herself, and the teachers. And the teachers far too often get the blame for the, quote, failing schools.
So here in Lafayette Parish, again, as you've stated, we have to take in every student. And no matter what background that student comes from, we have to meet the needs of those individual kids. I can say to you that in several different occasions that we have heard that kids that move to these charter schools are actually exiting these charter schools before any type of progress can be made. And what's happening is those rules that we have to obey by are just not the same as far as these charter schools are concerned. So we can't pick and choose who comes to our school.
Right.
But I can tell you they have those choices to be able to manipulate that population so that they can meet the needs that they need.
That makes sense.
And from a dollar standpoint, I'll bring it back to money, those children that come with a deficit are more expensive because you have to fill that deficit. You have to provide social skills they may have not learned at home. You have to do a lot of, we opened a brand new pre-K to help with that. We have to get these kids reading before they're in 3rd grade, or the chances of them dropping out increase dramatically. That's expensive. But when you take the money away and you allow us to make and stick us with the dedications, it gives us less and less resources. To balance this budget, we had to move money into grants. That's going to reduce the amount of tutoring to address those kids that we have to address when they walk in. We can't choose what these kids do when they walk in. We can provide pre-K services, which we do. We have a state-of-the-art pre-K center that we're opening. We're hoping to catch them early, fill their head, get them ready to sit down in first grade and start writing. Not every kid has ever done that. But that's a lot more expensive and taking resources away from us. And exactly when you have to apply, if you're a parent who is not fulfilling what many people may say their parental duties, is that person going to go out of their way to apply to go to a charter school? So just the application process is a hurdle that causes, if you have to apply, then you have an engaged parent. Mm-hmm. That's already there.
Right. And again, we're talking about budgeting and Lafayette Parish school system and the challenges that they're facing as it relates to basically the money following the child to the charter schools, because it doesn't follow them right now. It doesn't follow them to private school. Right?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. We've got more to talk about because there was some discussion, and the House Appropriations Committee at the legislature has cut some of the funding for teacher salaries, but it goes deeper than that. And Superintendent Francis Touchet wants to have that discussion right after the break. KPEL News Time, 8:31.
KPEL covers Acadiana with Lowry's Printing and Copying.
38th Annual Le Festival International de Louisiane happens Wednesday, April 24th through Sunday, April 28th throughout downtown Lafayette. This is the world's largest cultural and music festival, and it's free. You can volunteer to be a festival helper in many ways. Just show up and tell them you'd like to volunteer. Get the complete music lineup and everything available at the festival at their website, festivalinternational.org. Saturday, April 27th in New Iberia, Festival of Live Oaks happens 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at New Iberia City Park. A barbecue cook-off, train rides, petting zoo, fun jumps, and other activities for the kids. Too much to mention here. To get more details, give them a call at 337-369-2337. See you at New Iberia, Saturday, April 27th, Festival of Live Oaks.
This hour brought to you by Matthew James Tax and Wealth Management. Online at MatthewJames.com.
Your 24/7 news source. On air, online, and with the KPEL News app. Now the headlines from the KPEL News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wirtz with a look at news on this Wednesday, April 24th. Festival International kicks off this evening in downtown Lafayette. If you can't find a parking space downtown, a shuttle will be running from the UL Health Science parking garage to the festival grounds. Streets in downtown Lafayette will be closed during event hours. Music starts tonight at Scene Fade Odo near the intersection of Jefferson and Lee. At the Capitol, legislation to remove nitrogen hypoxia as a means of execution passed in the Senate after 2 votes. The first vote was tied, and then it passed 22-16 and advances to the House. Monroe Representative Katrina Jackson Andrews asked for a suspension of the rules because she believes some members mistakenly voted against the bill the first time. She reminded Senate members the bill does not repeal the death penalty, only the use of gas for execution. Jackson Andrews filed the measure at the request of members of the Jewish community because of the method's connection to the Holocaust. Louisiana public school teachers would receive a cut in pay, and early childhood education would see a reduction in state funding under the budget proposal approved by House Appropriations. The spending bill would reduce a $2,000 stipend that teachers receive on top of their regular salary down to $1,300. House Appropriation Chairman Jack McFarland says they had to reduce proposed teacher stipends and cut $24 million from early childhood education to fully fund the K-12 public school funding formula that Bessie submitted to the legislature. The budget process is not over yet, and lawmakers could find a way to cover the stipend at that higher level. Legislation to provide protections for in vitro fertilization clinics in Louisiana advanced favorably from the House Civil Law Committee and will go before the full House next week. Bill author Baton Rouge Representative Paula Davis says after a Supreme Court ruling in Alabama caused IVF clinics to close, she wanted to keep that from happening here. The Alabama Supreme Court ruled that a frozen embryo is considered a child, and if the embryo is destroyed, it's wrongful death. To avoid criminal charges, IVF clinics there closed. The bill only affects IVF and does not impact the state's abortion ban. The trial for murder suspect Joshua Willis continues today in Lafayette. Willis is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the 2016 deaths of Ashley Metz and her boyfriend, Brooklyn Hill. The two were found in separate vehicles in Scott and Karen Crow. They had been shot and the cars set on fire. A second suspect and Willis's nephew, Joseph Sylvester, accepted a plea in the case in exchange for his testimony against his uncle. Willis faces life in prison or the death penalty if he's convicted. The Federal Trade Commission Tuesday voted to ban non-compete agreements that prevent employees from leaving their jobs for other companies or starting their own businesses. Some business groups are expected to take legal action over fear the ruling may leave their proprietary and intellectual property vulnerable. The rule will go into effect 120 days after it's published in the Federal Register, and even existing non-compete agreements will be thrown out, with a few exceptions for senior executives. LCG and Keep Lafayette Beautiful are hosting their annual paper shredding day on Saturday from 9 to noon at the Robichaux Center. Residents of Lafayette and the unincorporated areas can have confidential documents shredded to protect their personal information and reduce the risk of identity theft. Each household is limited to 3 kitchen-sized garbage bags. The Department of Wildlife and Fisheries is now offering the option to buy Louisiana waterfowl conservation stamps online. Customers can still purchase the 2024-25 duck stamp at licensed vendors and at the LDWF Baton Rouge headquarters. Those stamps will be available starting June 1st. The Ragin' Cajuns host Houston Christian tonight at the Teague. First pitch is scheduled for 6 p.m., and you can listen to the game right here on 96.5 KPEL. That's a look at your news. I'm Tracy Wirt.
Going to start seeing a few clouds trickling in here as we go through the day today. Going to be a little bit warmer out there as well. Those temperatures up at about 83 degrees. Still fairly quiet, though, and still plenty of sunshine. It's maybe not as much as we've had the last couple of days. Lows tonight going to start to be a little bit warmer. We are staying in the 60s here, 63 overnight tonight. Continuing to warm up and feeling a little bit muggier towards the end of the week. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
We're showing an accident on the board eastbound I-10 near mile marker 101. That's going to be near the University Avenue exit. Hopefully it's not bad and will be moved off the roadway quickly. Just be careful in that area. Current temperature is 65 degrees. KPEL News Time is 8:41. I'm sorry, my screens are all messed up. 8:41. Don't push us back. We are visiting, as we do each and every Wednesday in the 8 o'clock hour, with Lafayette Parish School Superintendent Francis Touchet. He's joined today by Matt Dugas, who is, and I'm going to get this wrong, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. I knew there was another word. I knew it was there. And this has been a really interesting discussion. Matt, you and your team are currently working on the budget for the upcoming year. Do you have a fiscal year? Does it start July 1st?
Yes, we have a fiscal year July 1st to June 30th.
Okay, so you're getting all of that ready, and it's not always fun to do money. Speaking of money, Francis, I have my paper here. The House Appropriations Committee has passed a bill that will now go to the floor of the House that reduces the $2,000 stipend that teachers receive from the state on top of their regular salary. It reduces that to $1,300, but it also affects early childhood education. Tell us what you're seeing in this.
Yeah, Tracy, we are keeping our eyes closely on some of the different actions that are happening in Baton Rouge. One of the things that I would say is that our legislation, our legislators need to look at, our teachers are working hard. Our teachers are doing everything they can to meet the needs. Last year, sadly, the $2,000 that were given to them was just a one-time stipend, in which that was just, again, not assured to be part of your salary. Well, that $2,000 has now, for this particular year, going back to be a stipend, but it's also has been reduced to $1,300. I will tell you that, again, when we start looking at if we're going to improve business, if we're going to improve anything in this state, it starts with education.
Right.
And it starts with those teachers that are developing those doctors, those teachers that are developing the professionals that are out there. We need to make sure that we are investing in education and not giving the teachers the stipends that they need, the salaries that they need, is just prohibiting us from doing the things we have to be able to provide to the community and what those needs are.
Now, the stipend goes to it. Are there qualifications for who gets it? Is it just classroom teachers? Is it principal? Who typically gets those dollars?
So last year, all certified employees, if you had a certificate, you received the $2,000. There was also some legislation that was for non-certified people, to where non-certificated people, where they got a stipend there. Again, I would assume that those same stipulations that were applied last year, what is happening with this $1,300, there's going to be certain things that we're going to have to look at. So we'll just wait and see what the House is going to do with this. Will just urge that anyone listening out there, please reach out to your legislators. Make sure that they understand the importance of our educators and what they provide, and that we need to make sure that that funding is restored, not just in a stipend, but part of their salaries. Make that part of their salaries where they can assure that this money is going to be reoccurring.
Mm-hmm. So, Superintendent, let me ask you about this. You mentioned certified teachers, so I'm going to ask you a two-part question. Number one, how is your staffing with teachers at the Lafayette Parish School System? And part two, how is your project going at LPSS, whereby you guys are paying education majors at UL Lafayette to come and teach, I guess, kind of a mentor program? Talk about those two things, please.
So, Mark, again, not just in Lafayette, but the entire state, there is a teaching shortage. Mm-hmm. And when we look at staffing for this upcoming year, we're looking at just that. And part of what we have tried to do is, hey, take advantage of having a university right here in Lafayette and look at how we can somewhat capture those individuals, make sure that we entice them and say, hey, if you are a certified person, you're coming out of this university, we will pay you $1,000 for 10 consecutive months. And if you provide us with 2 years of teaching, we will make sure that you are part of the system, and also giving those same individuals 1 year experience as a residency so that they are up in that step. Again, we're in this teaching shortage. It is a competition. I am looking at trying to push whatever button I can to secure as much as I can, because I go into schools every day and I see what it is about getting a certified person in that classroom. And we need to make sure that we always go back to, where does the rubber meet the road? And that is where the classroom teacher, the certified teacher, is engaging every single day in providing those kids with the needs that they need to be able to proceed to the next grade level.
Mm-hmm.
That makes perfect
sense.
Well,
I commend you, the Lafayette Parish School Board, and I'm sure Matt Dugai over there had some input on that stipend program. Sounds like it's working very well, or as it was intended to work.
And we only have a couple minutes left, but the House Appropriations Bill also reduced basically the number of seats for preschoolers.
Yeah, that is, again, when we talk about, education, the earliest that we can get kids into our system is that pre-K setting. So right now we are looking at to where if they cut these seats, there will be less opportunities for kids to be able to come into these seats, to where we're going to be looking at alternative measures to be able to say, because a kid that gets into school early, 90% of that, the brain is developed between 0 and 3. Mm-hmm. Grabbing them in that 4-year level is just so beneficial, so that when they get into kindergarten and they move on, that we have provided them with the basic skills in order for them to be successful.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here with us today.
Yeah, Tracy, I just want to end by thanking you and Mark for giving us this opportunity every week. I want to give a shout out to our secretaries and our clerks out there that are working hard every single day. They don't get the recognition they deserve. And again, I was at Lafayette High today, and Ms. Julia Williams and her team, they were so fired up about testing and bringing kids in, and I saw that those clerks just being an integral part of that school. So, again, a big shout out to the secretaries and clerks throughout our district.
Yeah,
Here on Administrative Professional Day.
Yeah,
good job,
that was
Thank
awesome.
you, Mark.
And remember, if you have a question for Superintendent Francis Touchet here in Lafayette Parish, send it to us through the app, and we will make sure that we get those answers for you. You know, it's almost trite. The children are our future. Well, they just are. I mean, it's trite for a reason, most of those phrases. Anyway, thank you so much, Matt. Wonderful having you in. Good luck as you finish this process, because it sounds daunting.
Thank you, Tracy.
KPEL News Time, 8:49. The Rustic Renegade is your one-stop shop in Lafayette for firearms, concealment furniture, men's grooming products, and our locally roasted coffee.
A pretty decent looking forecast out there today. Temperatures at about 83 degrees with winds from the south at 5 to 10 miles an hour. We'll see a little more cloud cover out there compared to the last couple of days, and a gradual increase in clouds as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend. Weekend forecast still doesn't look too bad, with partly to mostly cloudy skies for Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures going to be sitting in the low to mid-80s. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
A board showing an accident on I-10 eastbound near mile marker 101. That's around the University Avenue exit. Please be careful. Current temperature 65 degrees. KPEL News Time, 8:53, as we wrap up the show on this Wednesday, April 24th. Very informative segment with Lafayette Parish School Superintendent Francis Touchet and Matt Dugas. Remember, he visits each and every week, 8 o'clock, right here on KPEL. Mark, tonight the Raging Cajun baseball team plays at the Teague, and first pitch is 6 o'clock. But last night, we talked about the softball team yesterday. They played last night. Give us the results.
I think we brought a few fans in there, Tracy, and as we hoped for and encouraged, it was a sold-out Yvette Girard Field. Oh, that making all kind of noise. Cajuns got behind 2-0. LSU led 2-0. Then the Cajuns came roaring back. They ultimately won 9-4.
Awesome. Congratulations
9-4.
to our Cajuns.
Good game tonight. It's you are right. It is baseball at ML Teague Field. 6 o'clock first pitch. Houston Christian, the opponent. It's a good team. Don't be fooled. You say, just some little university. No, they have a good baseball program. Get out and support the Cajuns, or listen right here on News Talk 96.5 KPEL, 5:30 pregame, 6 o'clock first pitch.
And look, you can download the app and listen on the app while you walk around at Festival if that's what you want to do.
Right.
One stage will be active tonight. It's Scene Fade Odo, which is Jefferson at Lee. The first artist starts at 6:30. It is Jordan Thibodeau and a bunch of other French words that I can't pronounce. And it says that after taking the Louisiana music scene by storm, Jordan and his band have developed a reputation for pairing ancient traditions with incomparable energy. Grammy Award-winning and nominated musicians Joel Savoy, or Savoy as some people say it, Cedric Watson, Alan LaFleur. It says, join Adam Cormier in bringing Jordan's story to life. So that'll be a whole lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And then wrapping up tonight is Lil Nathan and the Zydeco Big Timers. You can do some Zydeco late. I say late on a Wednesday night. For me, that's late. It's 8:15 to 9:30. He'll be on stage. Night. Yeah, no kidding. And then tomorrow things get cranked up. Again, 3 different locations, and you can find the schedule on their website. And I believe we have several links on our website as well as the map, so you know exactly where these stages are. Remember that parking is available at the UL Health Sciences building, which is the Old Lords, corner of St. Mary and St. Landry Street. You pay to park in the garage, and they'll shuttle you down to the festival grounds, which actually is just all of downtown Lafayette. And a reminder, too, that those streets in downtown Lafayette will be closed during event times. So if you happen to be driving through or heading from one place to another, and that's typically your path, then you're going to want to make alternate arrangements. Also, tomorrow on the show at 7 o'clock, we'll be joined by someone from Festival International who is coming with Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco-Boulay. Have a great day. God bless.
The Fox Business Report is brought to you by Gulf Coast Bank, your local community bank. Whether your financial needs are for an individual, a business, or for the whole family, Gulf Coast Bank has the knowledge and products to serve you best. With 9 convenient locations throughout Acadiana, you're never far from a friendly Gulf Coast Bank associate.
I'm Susan Lee, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Demand for expensive manufactured things was stronger than forecast last month. Durable goods orders rose 2.6%, excluding transportation. The increase was just 0.2%. Durable goods orders include everything from big household appliances to airplanes. Boeing's losses in the recent quarter were not as large as expected, as it continued to deal with the fallout from a door panel blowing off an Alaska Airlines jet. And the company says it's making progress on improving quality and solving its supply chain problems involving its Dreamliner. Tesla shares are gaining, though it had a weak quarter. It will be launching a Model 2 more affordable car. Tesla also is cutting thousands of jobs in California and Texas as it restructures. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola, invested in you.
Hi, I'm Ron Kraszewski, Chairman and CEO of Stifel. Financial advisors, let's face it, if you're not growing your practice, you're losing market share. Stifel is a growing, entrepreneurial, advisor-centric firm built for successful advisors like you. There's a reason why 148 financial advisors joined Stifel last year. Come join us and find out why Stifel is the firm where success meets success. Visit www.choosestifel.com.
Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Should you buy? Should you sell? Where do you start? Join us each Tuesday morning at 7:30 for Real Talk about real estate. Our industry aces, Walter Campbell and Deborah Pierce with Keller Williams, offer advice for buyers, sellers, and investors. From flipping to financing, they'll answer your questions and share tips on how to do it right. Real Talk about real estate, Tuesday mornings at 7:30 on News Talk 96.5, KPEL, on air and on the app.